A point has been reached in human history where space travel has been mastered, which opened new possibilities. In the far reaches of the universe, humanity realized that technology was as useful as a ping-pong table in the desert, for that place was infested with hideous and threatening creatures. Once at the bottom of the food chain, humanity resorted to imitation and did what the stronger creatures did, devouring the weaker ones. A new power emerged, and now humanity had uncovered the secret behind that genetic advancement. Our protagonist is an ordinary guy trying to improve his family's life. Full of good intentions, he ended up in a big mess with the most powerful woman in the shelter because he accidentally poked her in a very delicate part of her anatomy. Now his reputation is cursed, and he needs to find a way to make amends. The task will not be easy, but our boy has no other option. Either he makes it work or he makes it work. A century ago, humanity mastered the science behind space travel, and what surprised everyone was that at the edges of the universe, there was a completely different world, filled with uncontrolled and dangerous monsters. Humanity's military technology was utterly useless in this new world, and unable to close the space portal, humanity quickly fell to the bottom of the food chain. Survival became a burden. However, humanity's desire to live is very strong, and so the first man ate the flesh of monsters. This immediately led to a great biological transformation, and humans began to hunt the creatures to steal their souls. After hundreds of years of evolution, humans finally merged with the souls of the beasts, understanding the secret behind their genes. The only way to survive in this world is to keep eating the weaker ones, and it is called the Sanctuary of God. Our protagonist's name is Sem, and for now, he is an uninvolved human, but he has only been in this world for a month. Possessing exceptionally low luck, he has already become the target of criticism from his peers, and at this very moment, he is being chased because he ended up stealing the soul of a creature that those people worked hard to tame. Our protagonist agrees that stealing is not right, and if it were in his community, he would probably have already been disciplined by the parallel power. But in this world, the strong must exploit the weak. If he gets caught now, the only option will be to stop living painfully. Either he wins or he wins. There is no other option. But the situation is becoming increasingly complicated for him. Before arriving at the sanctuary a month ago, Sem intensely wished to know this place. As soon as he turned 18, he was eligible to pass through the portal, and then he discovered the Sanctuary of God. Although he was excited, the Sanctuary of God is not a place to be enjoyed. In fact, it is one of the most dangerous in the universe. But since his family needed money, Sam combined the useful with the pleasant. For someone like him who lacks the educational talent to enter college, that was the best option. At least there are various possibilities in the Sanctuary of God, and he is impressed with the armor that the hunters are wearing. As he walked, he felt an itch in his left eye. He walks distractedly, feeling this room, unaware of what is happening. In the nearby alley, a large magical creature appeared. The boy's first reflex was to be scared, as he did not expect to find a beast there. Now he understands why his left eye wouldn't stop itching. Immediately, he grabbed his sword, ready to end the creature's life, charging at it furiously. The tip of his blade began to penetrate the creature's fur, and he ended up hitting the beast in a very specific part of its anatomy, awakening everyone's curiosity. Immediately, a great smoke began to envelop not only the creature but the entire alley, and what was once a huge wolf transformed into an extremely well-shaped woman, and part of her attributes were so striking that they overshadowed not only the protagonist's vision but also that of the reader. Completely embarrassed, our boy realized that he had stabbed with his sword the ventral dorsal part of a female human being. The people there identified Kinexuan and that she had been stabbed. Definitely, whoever did this is a person without sense. Kinexuan is the most powerful woman in that place, and now she is disappointed with our protagonist. The onlookers around are waiting for something worse to happen, as that rookie will certainly be exterminated. Xuan screams furiously, asking where he got the courage to try to stab her in the back. Immediately, several other men surround our protagonist, ready to demand the consequences of his actions. One of them kicked the boy's leg behind the knee, and that immediately caused him to fall prostrate. Xuan said in front of everyone that anyone who dared to help that Warren would become her enemy. Our protagonist realized that he was now completely dead. He doesn't know what he had done and didn't understand how the situation escalated to this level, all of this having arrived at God's sanctuary just a few minutes ago. Desperate, he believes that this is nothing but a bad joke or a terrible nightmare. That same night, he went to cry in secret in a cave near the city. Even though his situation wasn't easy, he needed to keep working, and used his sword to hunt black beetles. Consuming that meat, he would gain 10 genetic points. So far, he had consumed 30 of those creatures, yet his score wasn't increasing. Looking at his status, all he had were normal genes. If he continued at this pace, it would take years before he could complete his first evolution and gain any level. It seemed that evolving with the meat of weak creatures was completely useless. Our boy's desire was to hunt slightly larger creatures, however. He encountered a primitive intermediate level monster and all he could do was flee. Not to mention that this event almost cost him his life, needing to recover for over 6 months. If he could join a team, things could certainly be different. While thinking about the event with King Xuan, his eye began to itch once again. And looking at the horizon, he saw traces of golden light. With that glow, there was the sound of a creature. That was also an armored black beetle. but there was something very different about its shell. As the monster approached our protagonist, he became intrigued, deciding that he would attack the creature before anything else. In no time, his blade was already in the abdomen of the poor arthropod. According to the system, he had obtained a divine soul. Surprised by what he had achieved, Sem became quite intrigued. Monsters are divided into 4 major groups, starting with normal, primitive, mutant, and divine blood, which is the hardest to obtain. Sem had heard a few people who managed to get this in that place, so he decided to look at the details of that soul. Noticing that it was of the armor type, he was eager to see what it could do. A huge golden glow rose from the ground towards the sky. Finally, those genes would start to interact with him, and what was once a golden glow became a thick mass, and it began to fully adhere to our protagonist's body, leaving behind a strange-looking armor, like an arthropod. Now that he was wearing that armor, Sem realized it was very comfortable. The sensation was one of lightness and great power, as expected from a rare-level monster. He was amazed by the people who had primitive armors, and never expected to have something of such high quality. His punches could destroy stones as if they were made of styrofoam. That power is truly impressive. Sem never thought the day would come when he would have divine power, and now he would finally build a reputation for his name. After this great achievement, he returned to his dormitory. Despite everything, he couldn't waste the ingredients of that soup. After eating that beetle, he gained 7 genetic points and believes that after that stew, he would gain much more. But there is another thing that intrigues him greatly. He managed to grab that small artifact from the beetle's body that didn't even seem to belong to a traditional insect's body. There with him was a caged creature, and immediately, the small artifact was snatched from his hands. Our protagonist looked back, trying to understand what had happened, only to see that the lizard had grabbed that sphere with its tongue and had now swallowed it. Quite upset, Han tried to make the creature spit out the sphere, but it showed no reaction, as if it were deceased, until its scales began to grow, and that cage became small for the creature, which once freed tried to attack our protagonist. Quickly, he managed to move out of the reach of its jaws, leaving a small stab in the creature's throat as a parting gift. Despite the quick reaction, that was very dangerous. The system informed our protagonist that he had defeated a primitive creature. Knowing the creature he had defeated, he realized that it had strengthened because of the crystal. The first thing he thought to do was recover the artifact, which was inside that lizard's body. Knowing that this is the secret behind the evolution of creatures, Han believes that this is his lucky day. At our protagonist's home, his family is being harassed. Relatives of our boy's deceased father want a claim to that property. Our protagonist's uncles are questioning his mother's right to stay in that house. Even the brother-in-law, a con artist, endorses the speech. The boy's aunt proposes that the widow pay the inheritance owed to each of them. The widow tries to explain her economic fragility to them, showing that she has a young daughter. But those incompetent people do not care about any of these problems. In a month, she must deliver the house or the money, otherwise they would have to go to court. As soon as they left the widow completely desolate, and our protagonist soon learned what had happened, recalling the ingratitude of his uncles who were helped by his father when they owed money and are now extorting his family. Disappointed, the widow believes she's a terrible provider and cannot protect her family. The boy consulted a lawyer who said the situation is solvable, claiming he would be responsible for putting an end to it. His mother felt a bit more confident. However, our protagonist's hatred for these parasitic relatives reached stratospheric levels. Back at the Divine Sanctuary, our boy hears news about the young prodigies. It seems that an adventurer managed to defeat a creature as strong as a demigod. They believe that the spoils of this creature could allow someone to evolve up to 4 times. Han believes that possessing that crystal could also allow him to achieve that one day. So he needs to go to Windfall Valley to earn more money and solve his family's problem. In the middle of the forest, he felt a bit disappointed, as if he had sold a soup made from that beetle, he could have made 2 million. His only option now is to use this crystal to strengthen creatures and earn money. Immediately, his eyes spotted something. A praying mantis was hiding in the grass. The creature could be identified thanks to our protagonist's exceptional vision. Wearing his new armor, he advanced into combat. As he got closer, the creature took flight. For a brief moment, Han was very surprised, until he understood he was being attacked. Due to being careless, he ended up getting hit and did not expect such strength and power from an insect. However, thanks to his new armor, he was completely unharmed. Back to reality, Han charged into the attack, slicing the praying mantis with his first strike. After returning to the ground, he believed that with this power, he would conquer the world. Immediately, several other monsters approached his location. Being hit multiple times, he suffered no damage at all. While defeating them all, he realized that not even a mutant-level creature would be enough for his power. His strikes passed through the arthropods as if they were made of butter. Now the creatures began to get even more agitated, and the praying mantises that were hiding approached for a new wave of attacks, which only made our protagonist happy, as his work was being made easier. In that same place, another hunter sighed deeply, believing himself to be unlucky. He is a subordinate of King Xuan, and so far has not encountered anyone he knows. What he desires is to find a mutant-level creature just to be properly rewarded and comforted in the abundant embrace of his leader. But after walking a bit, he couldn't even find the praying mantises. Analyzing the grass, he identified signs of battle, and by the amount of blood, it seems it was something very fierce. Finally, his eyes found something impressive. On a pile of those creatures' bodies was a person in armor, and he looked dangerous and imposing. Surprised, the bespectacled boy couldn't believe that man was responsible for all this. Noticing there was another hunter, our boy offered to sell each of those creatures for 1,000 coins. Unfortunately, he hunted more than he should have and wouldn't be able to consume all that meat. The bespectacled boy is also very wealthy and liked that proposal, immediately showing the ample contents of his wallet. Willing to establish a good relationship with our protagonist, he said he could pay in the future for similar situations. Han realized that the boy could be his new source of money, so he asked for his contact information. The boy said he serves Kinexuan and that his dormitory is number 1046. And turning his back on him, our protagonist said he only cares about the money and would see him soon when there is something interesting to sell, leaving that young man quite excited. The wealthy boy watched as our protagonist walked away in the middle of the forest. And after moving away, our protagonist encountered slightly more dangerous creatures. They looked like a mix between a bear and a demon, and the first one jumped to attack. But due to the strength of his new armor, that was nothing. The creatures were defeated with great ease. The same happened again. Han defeated everything as if he were playing, but he needs a live monster to test the crystal. He realized he needed to be a bit more cautious. After that hunt, he obtained another soul, and that creature's soul has a good market value. He immediately absorbed the artifact. That in his hands had become a spear. As he made the first movements with it, he realized it was very powerful. Meanwhile, something was happening at the gates of the sanctuary. Our protagonist approaches carrying a creature on his back. A large caravan of hunters is passing by, and it's getting closer to our boy. The leader of those people observes our boy in a haughty manner. Annoyed by his presence, he whipped him while calling him trash, wanting to know who had sold such low-quality items to him. The whip strike ended up hurting Han, who was upset by the jerk's attitude. Everyone there knows that our protagonist jabbed Qin Shuan's rear end, and the guy who whipped him is one of his lackeys, shouting to everyone that if they know of anyone who sold items to our protagonist, they will have a painful death. After this threat, his caravan continues on its journey. One of those men said that our boy was lucky, and if they had a little more time, they would have stayed just to beat him up. Han watches as that group of jerks moves away, understanding that he needs to increase his powers as quickly as possible. 3 days later, he is in his dormitory, in the company of the creature he had captured. It is still not at the mutant level, and evolving something at the primitive level is not as simple as he imagined. Waiting will be a waste of time. He needs to start hunting. Then he heard something from outside. Approaching a crack in the wall, he overheard the rumor. Many people are dying in the fields. It seems that a powerful creature has emerged. Armed with this information, Han immediately returned to the plains. Breathless, he believes he must not have been delayed. And from his elevated position, he was able to observe the movements of the other hunters. Among them was King Xuan leading his team. The ground squad advances courageously, and on the other side is an extremely dangerous monster. That kind of centaur can easily subjugate the hunters, passing through them as if it were a locomotive. Han understood that that creature with divine blood is truly powerful. The mighty monster is about to end a few more lives, but the jerk managed to dodge because he is very agile. King Xuan and his men watch as the monster moves. Quite enraged, the jerk advances, determined to resolve that battle. And our protagonist, who observes everything, began to wonder why that man is not afraid. Understanding that that divine blood monster is indeed formidable, its skin seems impenetrable to attacks. In contrast, everything the monster does in retaliation is lethal. At that moment, our protagonist realized that there is a significant difference between the beetle he had captured and that divine beast, which is capable of shredding humans as if they were paper. At that moment, the hunters realize that the formation had been broken, and the creature advances as it pleases. The whip man immediately used a spell, determined to prevent the creature's escape. He materialized in his hand a weapon with the soul of a poisonous creature. King Xuan knows that few people possess this type of equipment, and now the jerk wields his bow courageously, firing an energy arrow in the direction of the creature. The divine beast immediately senses the danger approaching, and its chest was brutally pierced. It falls completely motionless to the ground, with its chest completely impaled. The jerk said he did that to avenge his companions, and those who remained alive approached him, until King Xuan noticed something coming from the sky. A kind of lightning struck the creature's head. Finally, Anne had been defeated, and the one responsible for it received the spoils. The people who were there were surprised by an absurd movement. Is our protagonist who was approaching, and now he managed to grab the axe that the creature was using. Shortly after that, he continued to flee. Among those people is the very wealthy young man who identified our boy. On the other side, King Xuan was completely speechless, and the wit guy was intrigued by what the wealthy young man had said. Quite excited, our protagonist believes that was the heist of the century, leaving behind a handful of completely outraged hunters. The whip man cannot believe that his prey has been stolen and is now completely furious. After mounting his steed, he called all the men to follow him. Our protagonist realized that the axe is heavier than he was expecting. Because of this, the distance between him and his pursuers is decreasing, and as the chase progresses, he is constantly threatened. Even though he has 8 points of sacred genetics, carrying that artifact is truly difficult. And looking back, our protagonist realized that his situation would worsen soon. Knowing that he could not continue running, our protagonist thought that his life might meet a tragic end. He closed his eyes and apologized to his family as he took a risk he could not overcome. At that moment, he heard a voice in his head asking if he was really going to give up. And if that was his intention, our boy immediately remembered the words he heard from his father. He called him Little Grasshopper, teaching his son to fight, saying that it is just a game and now he needs to win. Our boy said it would be too dangerous to get close as the place was surrounded by monsters. Then his father said he could not remain paralyzed just because he was afraid of danger. Evolution is something all living beings need to overcome. Shortly after that, the protagonist's father shot a smoke arrow into the midst of the creatures that seemed to have blinded their vision, and the man advanced easily among the beasts, finally reaching the hidden enemy. After leveling up, he told his son that fear prevents adventurers from becoming stronger. He needs to be ruthless if he wishes to thrive in this world. And it seems our protagonist learned something from his old man. The man said that his son's kindness is very useful, but it has no function on the battlefield. What they are doing is just a game, and the real world is unimaginably more cruel. One can only trust oneself. This time, his father would teach him to do it the right way, taking the boy's sword and plunging it into his own chest, causing him to gain another level. This is the easiest way to become stronger and stronger. After revisiting this confusing memory, our protagonist seems as motivated as a truck driver working non-stop, fueled by party powder and suspicious pills. It was at that moment he realized there is still hope to overcome this situation. Feeling danger approaching, the jerk jumped at him furiously, and armed with the axe, our protagonist decided to merge the transformations. His body began to shine uncontrollably, and the jerk who tried to attack him became completely confused, realizing that his enemy had changed armor. Thanks to that fusion, our protagonist transformed into a centaur. This time he has much more speed to escape. He will never be caught. Noticing he had lost the soul of that creature, the whip man became quite flustered. He ordered his men not to stop chasing him while becoming increasingly enraged. Watching that escape, King Xuan was a bit surprised. One of her men said the path is quite winding. The truth is she is trying to understand how that thief managed to steal those souls so easily. Some of her men are commenting that if that equipment could have been sold, it would be worth a lot of money. Now they want to know the true identity of that thief. After managing to escape, our protagonist is exhausted. At his current level, he cannot maintain the transformations for long. If it weren't for the extra speed, he would have died. Unlike the other souls, that axe cannot be stored in a virtual space, and now it must have angered a large alliance of clans. That's why he buried the artifact in the forest. The souls of the creatures cannot be sold, but that axe is worth at least a few million. After that day, everyone is returning to the entrance of the hideout, commenting on what happened. Our protagonist is confident that his item is safe and hidden. He is stopped at the entrance, as everyone is being searched, until a man said he didn't need to do that, as our protagonist is a big piece of trash. So he is immediately pulled out of the line, which left our boy very happy. Inside the city, rumors about what happened are proliferating, saying that the whip man is deeply irritated with the thief. What is even more bizarre is that he ended up receiving the nickname Coin, which is a very nonsensical nickname. Inside King Xuan's room, she talks with one of her men. Interrogating the rich boy, she wants to know who he referred to as Coin. He reveals that he doesn't know his identity and that he only saw him once during a business transaction. King Xuan wishes for the boy to contact him again, suggesting that he to seek him with the offer of a lot of money. She assured him that if everything went well, the young man would be very well rewarded. In the heart of the forest, our protagonist returned to hunting. The reward for his capture is so good that our protagonist wished to turn himself in to access the money. And so far, he has not managed to increase the number of mutant genes he possesses. In the midst of his ambush, he noticed eyes shining in the middle of the lake. But the creature soon disappeared the moment our boy heard sounds in the forest. A human figure is approaching, and their clothes seem very worn as if they had been abandoned. Distrustful, our protagonist approached the wanderer, warning him of the dangers of the swamp, and the beggar asked for the direction to the glorious shelter, being immediately informed that it is in the mountains located north of the steel shelter and does not know where the shelter the beggar is looking for is. At that moment, the wanderer realized he had wandered for so long that he had arrived in another region. Determined, he asked our protagonist to take him to the glorious shelter. However, our boy did not like that tone of voice. It sounded like he was receiving an order. He recommended that the beggar head south, saying he needed to continue hunting. Unfortunately, that wanderer was high on fentanyl and decided to strike our boy from behind, who immediately stumbled and fell face first onto a rock. Hurt by this, Hannah asked, agitated, what the wanderer had done. But the beggar grew bold and ordered our protagonist to follow his commands. Seeing that the beggar was devoid of reason, it was time to resort to violence. And after grabbing his spear, our protagonist was going to teach him a few things. Attacking the beggar immediately, proud. But seeing that clumsy technique, the beggar said that even without the souls of his creatures, defeating our protagonist would be easy. And he countered the blow with his bare hands. immediately cutting our protagonist's spear in half. Seeing that, our protagonist began to get very worried. The beggar used the art of awakening genetic potential with an ancient martial art, releasing his cores, something learned in the best schools. And now he would give one last choice for our protagonist to help him. However, our boy did not like being treated that way. And after putting on his armor, he decided he would fight the beggar. Once again, the two exchanged blows. And even without any equipment, the beggar was proving to be a formidable enemy. He managed to defend against all of our boy's attacks. More than that, he also managed to scratch his armor, a sign that his core mastery technique was very good. Realizing he was the strongest in the fight, the beggar said he would keep that armor. However, our protagonist was empowered by the power of the plot, and he returned to attack his enemy. Nothing he tried was effective. Our protagonist went back to getting beaten like a dying dog, spitting blood from all the orifices of his face. The beggar told him that trash will always be trash, while he shoved his face into the rocks. Outraged by all that humiliation, our boy managed to hit his head on the beggar's nose, which for a moment distracted him with pain. That was the opportunity our protagonist had been looking for, and this time, he managed to use the transformation of that colossal beast resembling centaur. As soon as he saw all that power, the beggar realized that his situation had become a bit complicated. This time, he had to exert himself to block our boy's attacks. Empowered by the centaur's power, he finally managed to subdue his enemy, and now that proud wanderer was being hit by numerous blows. After a brief session of beating, his body was quite battered, and our protagonist realized that for the first time in his life, he was someone else's isekai truck. The problem is that even while using his armor, the beggar's blows managed to hurt him. So he began to think about where that man could have learned the super core skill. Trying to gather some information, all he saw were worn-out clothes, until inside a pocket of the shirt, our boy found a memory chip. Back in his room, our protagonist is reflecting. Just by looking at that memory chip, he knows it is definitely not a cheap artifact. And now he is eager to find out what data is hidden there. The first impression he has is very confusing. There are the details of the jade skin technique. And seeing the beauty demonstrate those techniques, our boy's processor goes into overclock. It was then that he realized he was very lucky, as he managed to access a high-level technique, so he wouldn't need to spend money on it. 3 days later, he had already practiced a lot, feeling the difference in his skin, which is much slimmer, softer, and silkier, as if it were a women's moisturizer commercial. The temperature of his body is also a bit lower. The problem is that he cannot keep this chip hidden for too long. It could be risky. While he was thinking about the problems, his phone started ringing. He already knows the lunatic on the other end. He seems to be some kind of acquaintance, and he was informed that other friends would be gathering. Curious, he asked where it would be, but the lunatic asked him to come down first as he was driving. Our protagonist knows he is being sought by many people, but since he still doesn't know his true identity, it should be safe to go out for now. Through the streets, they are driving in his friend's sports car. Everyone is commenting on what happened in the forest when our protagonist stole that artifact. The problem is that no one knows he is responsible for all of this, not even his cousin who was driving the car. At that moment, he remembered that matters with his family are very complicated, and he would prefer not to have a relationship with that kind of people. Looking at the driver, he asked where they were going now. That was when our protagonist realized they had already arrived at their destination. That is the martial arts hall of the city, and inside it seems there's a big competition happening. In the middle of the audience, our boy noticed that Tang Zhenliu must be very popular. He heard from one of his friends that last year he placed 5th in the entire sanctuary. That is why when he appears in the arena, people go wild. And witnessing his secret move, our protagonist's friend ended up feeling extremely suspiciously moved. And the driver of the car said that technique does not resemble what the ruthless Moda can do. This quickly creates a division in that conversation, as not everyone is a fan of the anonymous thief. And the only thing our protagonist agrees on is that Moda is indeed a very lucky guy. For now, he will not reveal the true story to his cousin. Since then, 15 days have passed, and the beast he captured remains on the brink of death. However, it managed to evolve, and our protagonist realized that this way he could make some money. At night, he met again with that rich boy, and receiving the items from our protagonist, he was very excited to pay for them. Our boy assured him that he would not try to deceive him. On the other hand, the rich boy said he appreciates that trust, and since he works for King Xuan, he informed our boy that she is interested in buying that stolen equipment. Leaving the meeting, Han said he would consider the offer if the price was interesting. After that, he went to the bottomless pit. Inside that cave, he was carrying a large bag. Quite pleased with the results of that night's hunt, our protagonist realized that the creatures posed no danger at all. Until in the midst of the darkness, a feminine voice called him Moda. Completely startled, Han realized that King Xuan was there waiting for him. As soon as he identified the danger, our boy turned around. However, the beauty asked Moda to carry her. At that moment, our protagonist was quite surprised by that request, and the woman revealed that she had twisted her ankle. Han realized that thanks to his armor, he would not be recognized, and approaching that woman could bring him some benefits. Looking at her, he noticed that the wound was caused by a scorpion. And indeed, she confirmed this information as she was attacked after her incense had run out. Putting a dagger in her hands, she recommended that our protagonist not try to take advantage of her. Han made it clear that he would help her, but asked not to be misunderstood. However, he was worried that she might have the ability to read minds, as he really wanted to take advantage of that, but not in the way she thought. Embarrassed, the beauty promised to give him a large sum of money if she was helped. Han confessed that he needed money, but that his need was not so urgent, and it was then that he asked what happened to the scorpion that had poisoned her. The beauty informed him that she defeated the beast and is impressed that our protagonist killed all those scorpions in the bag without getting hurt. Quite motivated, Han told her that he would help, but that he did not want money as payment, but rather the souls of the creatures, especially that of the mutant crystal scorpion she had defeated. After they reached a consensus, our boy walked through the forest. The beauty asked to be put down when they were close to the hideout, but she thought it was impressive to witness that man eat all those scorpions just to get stronger. Now that they can see the shelter, our boy said he would leave her in that place. He is waiting for his payment, the soul of that creature. King Xuan does this, but she had already asked the rich boy to inquire if our boy really wants to sell the axe. Han said the souls belonged to him. As for the creature's axe, he would sell it for 2 million and a mutant soul. Willing to negotiate, knowing the limitations of the axe, King Xuan offered 6 million. This offer pleased our protagonist, who told her that he would soon provide information about the payment, stating that King Xuan was sure that Moda is just a greedy person. After that adventure, our protagonist walks through the city. He ended up encountering his cousin, who upon seeing him began to act as if he did not know him. Feeling this, Han continued on his way, until he was called by his cousin when he entered an alley alone. Now that he has your attention, let me make something clear. But our protagonist has no idea what he has to say. That jerk just wanted to reprimand him, making it clear that he shouldn't share with others who have any degree of kinship. Our protagonist agreed to this, promising to treat his cousin like a stranger within the sanctuary. The truth is that, even though he has a bad reputation in this place, his cousin would never admit that he is related to him. But that disdain is irrelevant to him, as they do not share the same goals. Back at home, our protagonist contemplates a large sum of money. That is the starting point for making his life and his family's life even easier. To celebrate, he took his little sister and his mother out for ice cream, because he knows that the little girl has wanted to do this for a long time. She was tired of eating sugar water, and she is very excited to finally eat a sweet treat. Their mother, on the other hand, is worried about the cost of this delicacy. But our protagonist made it clear that money is no longer a problem, and that he will only grow stronger as a hunter. Seeing that the place was crowded, they realized that the restaurant's good reputation is not without reason. As they were about to go up the stairs, they were stopped by a man who worked there. He informed them that that floor was reserved for celebrities and noble people. For a brief moment, our protagonist was confused, but his mother said it was fine. They would wait on that floor while he bought the ice cream. The truth is that the privileges promoted by these titles disgust our protagonist, and soon he will get everything he desires, as nothing will stop him. Our protagonist is now on the train, reflecting that whenever he takes it, it is always very crowded. Unexpectedly, the vehicle had to brake sharply. Inside, people were jostled around like cargo in a smuggling truck. And quite coincidentally, our boy ended up bumping into a certain woman. He took a moment to realize where his face had landed, and he was immediately met with an elbow from King Xuan. Our protagonist starts to explain that it was a misunderstanding and that it was an accident, but the beauty cannot forget that contemptible expression. And only now does our protagonist realize that he has gotten himself into trouble with her once again. King Xuan believes he is a moral degenerate, a completely disgusting person with no redemption. Soon, the commotion took over the carriage. There is nothing Han can do but try to apologize, saying that the sudden stop was abrupt for everyone. But the beauty has already decided. She thinks our protagonist is just a depraved person who deserves the worst punishment. As they argue, the conductor announces that the train has arrived at its destination. As he was leaving the carriage, King Xuan threatened him, stating that she would be waiting for him at the shelter. It was only then that our boy realized she is a captain. So she has several men under her command. It would be too easy for her to track his movements from now on. Han realized he needs to avoid that woman at all costs, or his future will be ruined. As he tried to walk calmly, someone called out to the maniac who likes to touch people. And the man said he has a very good proposal to make to him. Our protagonist said he is just a small fish and that it would be inappropriate to accept anything good. But the man was very insistent and told him to hear his proposal. On that same day, several hunters are running through the forest. They are motivated by the money promised by the whip guy, so they cannot disappoint their employer. They are searching for mutant beasts, and so far, none have been found. Our protagonist began to wonder what they hope to achieve with such a large group of people. Leading that group is, of course, the whip guy. I don't know about you, but he has a funny little face. His subordinate began to divide the men. Calling our protagonist a maniac, he warned that it was time for him to shine. Immediately, our protagonist realized that the crevice in the rock must be inhabited by dangerous creatures. Even so, the group of hunters entered there. It seems to be even deeper than they imagined. Trying to motivate his men, the leader of that squad swung a whip in the air, and it seems they have finally reached the deepest part. Before them appeared a huge lake, and that group of men observes the water in total silence, for there is no more path to tread. In light of that, the squad leader immediately showed inflatable boats. That will be enough to get to the other side. Our protagonists realize that they are very well prepared to explore this region, and so they continued advancing. Han did not understand why some people were left behind, since those men were going to the other bank. It was then that he noticed something hiding in the water, and something resembling a huge sea serpent appeared. Its scales were hard and pointed, dangerous for the inflatable boats. Our protagonist understood that danger had arrived, and the whip-wielding jerk was pleased with that, as he had been looking for this beast of sacred blood, the serpent of jade ink. And now that it had emerged from the water, the great sea serpent began to feast on some of the hunters. Immediately, those who remained alive fell into despair. But someone was not pleased with that. The whip man immediately finished off those who tried to flee. Since he had invested money in this hunt, he would not allow them to escape without fulfilling their part of the contract. Miraculously, those who remained alive realized that if they were victorious, the rewards would be interesting, and now that they had accepted the money, they decided to work. For our protagonist, that is completely stupid. While the jerk's men remain calm on the shore, those who seem like mercenaries have to sell their lives fighting against the creature. After the first attack, the serpent hid in the water once again, and our protagonist realized that they were being used as bait. That is definitely outrageous, and he does not want his life to end on this occasion. Once again, the shadow of the enormous serpent appeared beneath the water. It attacked the boat where our protagonist was, claiming more lives. But thanks to the power of the plot, he managed to jump into the water and use his armor, seeing in that an opportunity to escape. Immediately, he began to swim further away, and one of those mercenaries noticed that out of the 34 people at the beginning, only 7 were still alive. Then the foreman of the whip man imagined that the serpent was already full, which made crossing the river very safe. Aware of this, he and his men began to advance, reaching the other side in total safety. After passing through a narrow corridor, they found another lagoon, and in that place there were 2 eggs of the creature. Upon that discovery, the jerk realized that he could increase his sacred genes once again, and he ordered some of his foremen to take the eggs. With great care, the men did so, until they were surprised by the serpent's appearance once more. Realizing that he could lose his reward, the jerk decided to act. The other men who were there in his service also armed themselves. The priority was to block the attacks and rescue the eggs. To do this, they began to throw the mercenaries as live bait to distract the snake. With the creature distracted, the jerk believed he could escape safely. However, he saw something quite unusual in his path. It was the fist of our protagonist, who came to deliver justice for the poor souls. And once again, Moda managed to take valuable items from that jerk. While the fool tried to recover from the impact, our protagonist was already far away carrying the reward. When he realized that Moda was responsible for this, the jerk went into a crisis. And our protagonist never thought he would have such luck, as that is definitely a nice reward. It didn't take long for him to reach the other lake, but he encountered something dangerous. Another snake had emerged from the waters. To make matters worse, the jerk's men were approaching him. Knowing the risk of the situation, our protagonist held the eggs tightly and threw one in the direction of the jerk, telling him to cooperate now because of the danger the serpent represented. However, the jerk did not want to cooperate. What he desired was to take the eggs and finish off our protagonist. As soon as he began to complain, he realized that the egg had cracked. One of his men tried to warn him of the imminent danger, as the sea serpent advanced furiously toward him. Worried, all he could do now was curse the existence of Moda, the Robin Hood of the dungeons. Back in the city, Han was very satisfied with what he had achieved. He managed to increase his sacred genetic score by 13 points after consuming that egg. It was then that a feminine voice said that he knows very well how to hide. King Swan was waiting for our boy, saying that he would not be able to hide from her, especially after disappearing for half a month. At that moment, our protagonist realized that he had a pair of huge problems to solve. Despite the conflict, King Swan is a reasonable person, and she is willing to resolve their differences with our protagonist through violence. If she lost that duel, she would not bother him again. Our boy said that she has military training and 100 genetic points, not to mention battle experience and the various souls she has already absorbed. He believes he cannot win, and the girl stated that neither of them will use beast souls. If he can withstand 50 of her strikes without dying or being knocked out, everything will be resolved. Hearing this proposal, Han confirmed that he would not attack and would focus solely on his own defense, as he does not believe he is capable of defeating her. Then after saying this, King Shuan asked him to start moving. Without thinking twice, our handsome protagonist landed a punch on the nose of that beauty. As she tries to regain her composure, she says that the boy has no martial discipline whatsoever. This made our protagonist apologize numerous times. The truth is that he is very nervous. All he wants is for this to end as soon as possible. After recovering, the beauty warned that the fight would resume, and once again she was punched in the middle of the face. Our protagonist, very apprehensive, said that she had already announced the start. But now, knowing he won't be able to hit her frequently, he decided to take advantage of this opportunity. Unfortunately, he ended up provoking the wrath of that woman. She began to attack our boy as if he were a dying dog. She strikes with increasing force, determined to end his pathetic life. The training session ended quickly. Our protagonist could not withstand 50 of her attacks. Their duel was basically a one-sided beating. Sighing deeply, he realized he needed to get stronger. After that, the beauty went to take a shower but couldn't shake the feeling that it was all strange. She could not accept that she was hit twice because she was distracted. Very suspicious, she decided to investigate a little more. Finally, she emerged from her shower. Now she is reviewing the footage of their training, realizing that our protagonist's technique is incredibly terrible. Despite the lack of technique, all of his strikes are explosive and strong. There is no feint, only determination. His type of movement is very similar to that of an assassin, and perhaps he distracts his opponents with his appearance, taking advantage of that opportunity. But for Qin Shuan, this hypothesis is unlikely, as he is too weak to be an assassin. Talent aside, she considers his character completely despicable, so she is determined to continue hating our boy. The next day, Han went looking for martial arts classes. At the place he went, there are classes for beginners up to advanced students, and there was a technique that Han wanted to learn, showing that old man the demon phantom. That is not a very common technique to learn, and perhaps his body may not be able to handle it. However, since he started training with the jade skin, his whole body had become stronger, and he heard from his father that the demon phantom is particularly effective against women. On that same day, he went to the observation room and ended up surprised. That old man is responsible for teaching all the classes, and those techniques seem a bit too embarrassing. It was then that our protagonist realized that perhaps his father was a somewhat peculiar type of person. If he uses those techniques against Qin Shuan, she will hate him even more. Now that he has already spent the money, Han needs to learn those techniques. Accepting his fate, he hopes that Qin Shuan will not bother him again. Otherwise, she will suffer. Finally, our boy arrived home. After training for a few days, he feels like he is becoming a depraved old man. Thinking about this, he observed the creature he had captured. It continues to evolve healthily. The next day, he went to the forest to hunt. He noticed that his alter ego was not being sought after, so that was the ideal setting to continue hunting. He also decided it was a good opportunity to see what kind of mutant soul he received from the transaction with Qin Shuan. And seeing that little fire cat, he was surprised as the creature is too small. Upon closer analysis, that little creature thought it could be a pet. However, the most common types are for combat and riding. And our protagonist's hope is that that little cat might have some kind of combat ability. So he placed the creature on the ground and ordered it to attack 3 monsters that were nearby. The creatures were peacefully eating grass, until the cat charged at them in attack mode, being immediately pushed away as if it were just a small nuisance. Han can't even understand how that cat can be so weak, given that its soul is from a mutant beast. As seen, the cat really was not made for combat. It is very possible that he fell into some kind of scheme set up by Xuan. At least, the cat is very cute. Now our protagonist cannot expect the cat to help him in any way. On the contrary, he is the one who has to take care of the cat. Leaving the creature aside, he advanced towards the beings to find something for dinner. After a few days, he and the cat are living peacefully. Now that the cat has become his companion, he is also being fed. Our protagonist found this strange, as the soul of a beast does not need to eat. When they get hurt or hungry, they are sent to the virtual space, but the cat enjoys eating much more than its owner. Since his company is pleasant as well, our protagonist decided to call him Mr. Meow. While he enjoyed the company of the kitten, he heard cries for help. A man was running desperately through the forest, and as he got close to our protagonist, he did the same. For behind that man, a stampede had occurred, and in desperation, he offered any amount of money to be saved. Our boy said that only the living pay in money, and given the number of creatures, both could be trampled immediately. Approaching a rocky wall, Han managed to climb it using a vine. The young man behind him begged to be pulled up as well, and climbing the same vine, our protagonist tried to help him, finally holding the hand of that stranger. Thanks to that, both managed to save themselves. Even though they are safe, they cannot descend while the creatures are outside, so Han asked what madness that man had done to be hunted in such a way. The young man said he had lost all his beast souls, was very hungry, and found the small cub of those monsters, saying this while lighting a cigarette. Listening to the story, Han realized that cigarette was very good, a sign that its user came from a good family, or was just another addict squandering his own wealth to satisfy his vice. After briefly telling the story, the stranger asked for our protagonist's name. In response, he shared his name as well. It's called Lin Baifeng, and what he wants to know now is how far they are from the glorious shelter. Our protagonist has no idea where it is, however, the shelter of the seal armor is a 10-day walk away. As soon as he learned this, Lin Baifeng was frightened to realize he was very far from his original location. Still, he is excited that he might return home, assuring that he will pay our protagonist when he gets there. As he was very tired and exhausted, the young man asked if our protagonist had water or food. Showing him that he had those things, Han warned that the cup of water and the piece of meat each cost 10,000 coins. That amount left the young man completely surprised. However, our protagonist assured him that if he provided the money, he would provide the supplies. And apparently, that amount did not seem exorbitant to the young man, who promised to pay 4 times more if he received a little more food. After a few days, they remained surrounded by all those beasts. Impatient, Lin Baifeng began to wonder if those creatures were not very stubborn. Our protagonist knows that the supplies are almost gone and climbing that wall is not possible for both of them. Since he has the physical advantage, he decided he would climb but asked the young man to wait for him. After putting in a lot of effort, our protagonist managed to reach the top using the techniques he learned from demonic haunting. But to his surprise, at the top of that place, there was a large egg. Its size is so impressive that Han began to wonder what kind of creature could have laid it. Our protagonist did not think twice and made a small hole in the shell of the egg with his dagger, and he began to drink the contents of that egg through a straw, hoping it was at least a beast of sacred blood. His hypothesis is immediately confirmed, and he decided he would finish that meal before the hurricane bird returned to its nest, as it would be quite dangerous. A little further down, Lin Beifeng observes that the creatures are moving away. Finally relieved, he decided that from then on in his life he would never disturb that herd again. Our protagonist had finally returned, which left the young man calm, as he had begun to think he was in danger. He noticed that our protagonist's abdomen was very swollen, so Lin Beifeng asked if someone had gotten him pregnant in that brief time. Han revealed that he had found the egg of a hurricane bird and even brought a bit of its contents for him as well. The young man immediately drank the contents of the cup. Our protagonist noticed that he enjoyed it a lot but lamented that he did not gain any genetic points. The truth is that Lin Beifeng is deeply grateful for having consumed a bit of that too, remembering that when he returns to his city he will pay our protagonist. At that moment, Han warned that his reputation in the shelter where he lives is not very good, and it would be better to stay away from him. Lin Beifeng felt offended by those words, as he would never ignore someone who had done so much for him after saving his life. Moreover, if anyone dared to disrespect him in front of him, they would pay for it. Han realized that the young man was very impetuous and could be an excellent friend. After all that adventure, he finally returned to the city, gaining 5 points of sacred gene, and because of the money he made, he could also rest deservedly. But the joy of our protagonist lasts little. He soon found himself with Captain Qin Xuan again and realized that he might be bothered. Quite upset, she simply asked to be accompanied. Our protagonist obeyed, but this time he was not afraid of her. Once again, they were in the training hall. Thanks to his private training, he was already mastering the demon haunting technique. Thinking about this, he was almost caught off guard by Qin Xuan's first attack. Our boy asked why she didn't declare the start of the battle, and she said she learned this ugly habit of catching people off guard from him. She believes that our boy is an expert in stealth attacks and explosive strikes. If she doesn't give him a chance to attack, victory will never happen. Her foot quickly approached our protagonist, and using all his martial training, he managed to grab the thigh of that beauty, leaving the captain completely surprised as she was then thrown towards the ground. In light of that advantage, Han asked if he could consider that a victory, realizing that the demon haunting technique is indeed incredible against women. Despite this, the captain only became even more enraged, saying that he is shameless. Completely furious, she manifested the soul of a beast in that place. The presence of the creature made our protagonist flee, and he reminded the captain that the terms of combat between them did not allow the use of such an animal. Now, our protagonist needs to escape from claws capable of cutting even concrete. All that pressure is definitely terrifying, and the captain seems willing to take his life. After that brief demonstration of power, Han realized that he was still very far from that woman's level. Understanding that he remains weak is something that makes him quite sad. On the other hand, the captain released her beast reflexively. Given the anger she felt when immobilized by our protagonist, fearful, she realized that Han could become even stronger. A few days later, they continued training, as she didn't know if he was just pretending to be weak. And this time, she encouraged him, saying that the boy has much more potential than that. Our protagonist believes that all this happens because he deeply irritated her, but the opportunity to practice his skills is priceless. After that hard training, his whole body is sore, but it wasn't as bad as last time. As soon as he left the building, he heard a familiar voice saying that they hadn't seen each other in a long time. Our protagonist saw Xui Exi, who appears to be his friend. She said she turned 18 and can now come to this sanctuary. Han realized that time had passed too quickly, and that this is the place where they will grow. Still talking to her, a large vehicle approached them. A young man got out and told his little sister that she could use the private transport they have at home. If she walked, she might be bothered by low-level people on the way to the transfer station. Then she went to explain the misunderstanding to her brother, stating that Han is her childhood friend. Our boy tried to greet that young man, but in a very rude manner, he made it clear that our protagonist is not worthy of being friends with his little sister, advising our boy not to bother her from then on. However, those words made Han feel offended, and the jerk confirmed that Han seems to have confirmed his own mediocrity, and now he was ready to teach a lesson to our protagonist. Immediately, Han realized that the demon haunting technique would be effective in close combat, successfully dodging the jerk's attack while reacting at the same time. Now both of his hands are on the collar of that impertinent being's jacket. Then our protagonist slammed him to the ground with all his strength. That was enough to make the man writhe in agony, leaving his little sister very worried. Now that he received a free sample of a beating, the jerk seems irritated. Han reassured his friend, saying that her brother doesn't just have a hard head, but a hard body too. He would certainly be fine after that impact. As it was getting late, Han announced that he would return to his lodging, suggesting to Xui Xe that they could go out to eat eventually. Seeing him walk away, the girl's brother seems to be cultivating a hidden interest in our protagonist. The truth is that he wants to return the favor he suffered that day, which leaves his sister very worried. Then he asked his little sister to invite our protagonist to lunch with them any day now. Suisi was immediately confused by this proposal, as she doesn't know if her brother is interested in our protagonist in the same way she is. Back in his lodging, Han realized he needed to make a bit more money, so he decided to go online to look for job opportunities. In a special forum, there were some business and job opportunities. Curiously, he managed to find Lin Baifang, the guy he had helped. He noticed that the guy was looking for the souls of creatures as well as their flesh, making big offers for them. The problem is that what he is looking for is not easy to find. At that moment, Han found some requests for bodyguard services, and the only requirement is that the person must be able to defeat 10 primitive animals. Since that was something reasonable for him, he decided to apply. What remains now is to find a weapon that can help him with this task. Unfortunately, his spear was destroyed, and the first item he decided to examine was a bow, which seemed very impressive. That item has so many qualities that its value is 7 million, yet no one had bought it until now. This weapon is the Soul of Calamity, has a range of 800 meters, and can pierce metal at great distances. The problem is that it requires a strength of 7 points to pull its string. But the Jade Skin, our boy's strength, barely exceeds 8 points. Another problem is that he only has 1 million coins left. Interested in the item, he made his offer and realized that the seller was not online, or perhaps the offer our boy made was too low. But to his total surprise, the item advertised for 7 million was being sold to him for the symbolic price of 1 million. The next day, his order had arrived. Now Han needs to do some tests. The first thing he tries to do is pull the bowstring. At that moment, he realized that with the Soul of Calamity by his side, his adventures would be much less risky. After 3 days, he was already prepared for the new job. In his quiver are 40 arrows, perfect for this occasion. Han believes that is more than enough, as in addition to these, he has the 6 originals that came with the Soul of Calamity. To his surprise, upon arriving at the designated place, several people were going through the selection process. Immediately, Han was approached by some extras who recognized him as the maniac. They doubt our boy's ability to be selected, and among those people is his cousin. Our protagonist saw that the jerk and his friends decided to approach him. For some reason, that modestly built guy is interested in him. Our protagonist assumed that this would be his contractor, and getting straight to the point, said that if he didn't consider him fit for the job, he would be leaving. However, the short guy wants our protagonist to be his bodyguard. Some of his men try to warn him that he's a maniac, but they are ignored, and quite interested, he presented the contract to Han with the intention of having it signed, something that is immediately done by our protagonist. The other contractors, feeling a bit envious, only wish out loud that Han succeeds. Finally, they are inside the forest. One of those men pointed in the direction where there are primitive creatures. It was then that they all heard the movement of something that seemed large. The men charged into the attack, determined to protect the young master. Our protagonist took one of his arrows. He ended up hitting the trunk of a tree, which left the other mercenaries upset. Our protagonist realized that he would need to use a bit more strength to release those arrows. It was then that one of the jerks appeared near him, wanting to know if Han couldn't hit a target more than 20 meters away. Definitely, he is too weak for that mission, a complete useless. And after that outburst, our protagonist's cousin asked once again that their relationship not be revealed. As the group advanced through the forest, our boy went to a higher place. The short man was excited about the creatures they found. He and his hired men began to attack them. Han realized that the little guy is talented. What he lacks is field experience, which is why he hired that protection. After a few days of practice, he noticeably improved. A friend of the short guy approached the bodies of the creatures, admiring the trophy they had obtained. But he ended up being brutally surprised by one of them, which was only pretending to be dead. His screams of terror left his companions frightened, and the short young man realized he was about to lose one of his companions. But an arrow flew swiftly through the air, piercing the creature's head, leaving behind only a lifeless body and a man with dirty underwear. Still very upset about what happened, the other hunters went to poke the body of the monster that had already been defeated. The man of modest height proved to be very human, asking if that young man was okay. Sighing deeply, he revealed that his health was intact, but the same could not be said for his underwear. The most unusual thing about all this is that even though our protagonist was responsible for saving him, some idiots still believe he was careless as he almost hit the short guy. And they joined together to provoke our boy, and a voice told him to go away. Then, very confidently, that idea approached Han to say that even the short man told him to leave because he was useless. At that moment, the short man surprised the idiot as he was defending our protagonist. He paid everyone to ensure the safety of that squad, but in the face of danger, the only one to react was Han. So they should have a little sense and start working for the salary they had received or leave. Trying to counter-argue, the idiot said he had received the full salary for that protection, and showing that he is very wealthy. The man of modest height threw the money into the air so that the losers could collect it before going home. After being humiliated, which was well-deserved, the idiot was very upset with our protagonist. And after all that scene, the young man who was saved came to thank our protagonist for his actions. The short man knows that it takes a strength of at least 7 points to pull the bowstring of the bow that our protagonist uses. As soon as he heard this, his friend was surprised. It was then that the man of modest height made it clear that the minimum score is 7. and it is certain that our protagonist must have more than that. Seeing potential in him, he suggested they become friends, something that was very well received by Han. The truth is that he is quite excited to have found a client with so many resources and who is also a polite and reasonable person. The next day, they are all gathered at the shelter's gate, and that idiot decided to block our protagonist's way. He is not all happy about losing money due to his own foolishness, so he decided to blame our boy. And apparently the idiot is very upset about missing that job opportunity. Our protagonist's cousin is watching everything but decided he wouldn't do anything. And to everyone's surprise, the idiot couldn't hit our boy, who immediately managed to grab his attacker's hand. At the same time, he disarmed and immobilized him. Han's cousin was left confused. Everything happened so quickly that the image became blurry. The others watching were surprised as the maniac managed to defeat one of them. Even while immobilized, he still had the strength to continue being arrogant, ordering his companions to help him. It was at that moment that our protagonist reminded him that he could break his arm, and already losing patience, he did just that, telling him to stop the nonsense immediately. But after doing that, the rest of the idiots became very irritated. Several cutting blows were aimed at him, but our protagonist managed to defend against all of them. Moreover, he managed to break the blades that were being used by the idiots. Our protagonist realized that that idiot's dagger is made of a very good metal alloy and must be worth at least 1 or 2 million. The one who witnessed all this and is now in disbelief is Han's cousin. He still remembers very well that our protagonist could only hunt beetles, and now he seems to be a completely different person. Looking at the idiot on the ground, our protagonist said that he does not deserve to have such good equipment. Therefore, from now on, that knife belongs to him. Our protagonist began to walk away, leaving the crowd of downtrodden behind, until someone told him to stop. The leader of the idiots appeared, and he did not like seeing his lackeys being beaten. And like a spoiled child, the unfortunate one with the broken arm is asking for revenge. Unexpectedly, his leader called him a loser, saying that all of this is shameful. And wielding his whip, he promised that he would end our boy's life. Immediately, the two engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Han realized that this big-headed guy is strong. There are rumors that his strength is almost 10 points. On the other hand, the big-headed guy is impressed that our protagonist can defend against the blows of his whip. He definitely cannot allow him to continue living, and he decided to attack violently. But he had to stop his attack from happening upon realizing that our protagonist had drawn his bow. The idiot realized that his life could end painfully. All the other idiots are surprised by our boy's audacity. Our protagonist becomes very exhausted when using the bow, so as soon as he sees an opening, he will shoot. Fortunately for the extra, King Xuan appeared at that moment and asked our boy to lower the bow. Shortly after, she ordered the big-headed guy to put away the whip as well. Our protagonist is still quite apprehensive, but the presence of that woman made both of them obey her orders. The big-headed guy tries to say that he was disrespected and now needs to end the life of the maniac. Completely ignoring his words, King Xuan counters the boy's whip. The force of the impact is so great that he ended up falling off the horse. The captain told everyone that our protagonist is her man and she doesn't want anyone interfering with her discipline. After resolving that, she asked Han to accompany her, leaving behind his very confused subordinates. No one understood what she meant by those words, that he is her man. However, the big-headed guy's hatred began to grow too much, and he is planning his revenge. In the company of the beauty, it seems that our protagonist was invited by her to join her team, but he is not interested. King Xuan believes that he will be capable given the equipment he is using, not to mention that he ended up provoking the big-headed guy. Without her protection, it could be dangerous to be alone. Our boy thanks her for the offer but says he can take care of himself, which leaves the beauty very upset, as that invitation is exceptional. But our boy does not wish to join her team. Moreover, his physical aptitude has not yet reached 10 points. Even though this is the situation, King Xuan is excited because she sees in our protagonist a person with potential. Her optimism left Han quite surprised. She believes that Han pretends to be a nobody. However, she thinks he must be the complete opposite, and she is always interested in recruiting talented people. Surprised, Han asked if she wasn't upset about what happened between them, and showing herself to be resentful, King Xuan asked that it never be mentioned again, making it very clear that if he does not enter the military school or does not have a noble title, he will be just an ordinary soldier fighting on the front lines. Showing a lot of confidence, Han asked how she knows he will never achieve a noble title. All he needs to do is keep practicing the jade skin and maximizing his genes, as he will soon obtain a title. But the young man's attitude is too arrogant for the captain, who doubts that this will ever happen. After all that coercion, she decided that she would join him, especially since it would be difficult to maintain enmity with someone as influential as King Xuan. After all that, Han finally lay down on his bed. Hearing some knocks on his bedroom door, he realized it was his mother who had something to say. She wanted him to take his sister to school the next day, which left our protagonist curious. She ended up being placed in a reasonably good school. She ended up being placed in a school with very satisfactory performance. That is the best, except for those aimed at nobility, which left our boy quite excited. The next day, he went to fulfill his task. Interested in his sister's school life, he asked if she had made any friends, but the girl is very shy. Trying to reassure her, he said that all she needs to do is act naturally. If she is a victim of bullying, she should just share it with her brother. Much calmer, she promised she would do it that way. Arriving at the school, they found a man very similar to their uncle. He was accompanied by a woman and a child, and apparently, Han did not recognize them. Rudely, the man asked what they were doing there. This only made him very upset, as the tuition for that place is very expensive, and he assumes that the deceased father of the protagonist must have embezzled money from the family business. In trying to threaten our boy, he made it clear that this money belongs to the family, and it's good for him to start sharing. Then our protagonist asked if he had read the contract established in the inheritance. Besides those 2 million, no more money would be given, which only left the chubby guy completely beside himself. As that was not enough to intimidate him, our boy made it clear that if his residence were invaded, he would have the right to end the life of the pig. His uncle tried to attack him, completely out of control, but he ended up having his hand immobilized. And then he was thrown to the ground like a bag of trash. At that moment, Han said that if he really wishes to end his own life, he just needs to show up at his house uninvited. The little girl realized that her brother is exceptionally strong. Frightened, the chubby guy's lover said she would call the police. At that moment, Han revealed he had a small camera and wanted to know what his uncle's real wife would do if she found out about that second family. Desperate, the chubby guy tried to grab the camera to delete the evidence, and our protagonist sees the opportunity to crush the chubby guy's wrist. Now they were going to make a deal because they are family. All he had to do was pay 2 million to our protagonist, and that recording would disappear. Still very worried, the chubby guy didn't want to submit to that. So our protagonist became a bit more emphatic, twisting the poor guy's hand. Shortly after that brief exchange of ideas, the money was transferred. Our protagonist made it clear that he would delete the video, but everything would depend on his good mood, strongly recommending to the chubby guy not to bother his family again. As Han walked away, the overweight man shouted at him at the top of his lungs. And observing the wound on his hand, he began to wonder when that little brat became so strong. Unfortunately, Han was worried about his sister. Thanks to his uncle's intervention, she almost got delayed, and besides that, he didn't know if he scared the little girl. From then on, he decided he would try to be less violent in the presence of children. Nearby, there was the building where the hunter's physical fitness is tested, and Han decided he would take the exam once again. Inside the building, several hunters were preparing to take the physical fitness exam. Boshin was among them and was satisfied with his performance. Since he wanted to become a captain, he needed to keep trying. The problem was that the room was occupied, which was inconvenient since that time wasn't very busy. Immediately, he decided to see what was happening inside. His first impression was that using a beast soul to get past the robots was not a good choice. For the underdeveloped, a mark of 60 meters is satisfactory, and reaching the mark of 80 meters would be excellent. Boshin reached 76 meters, and that other candidate, using a beast's soul, could also do very well. Our protagonist destroyed the robots with great ease, achieving the SSS rating. Boshin was surprised by the existence of such a monster and completed the test at an impressive speed. And shortly after finishing that, the candidate disappeared. It didn't take long for that recording to go viral among the hunters. Many were interested in the identity of the one who achieved such an excellent performance. In a very well-located beach house, someone called for the modestly tall boy. He had just finished some physical exercises and wanted to take a shower. But upon learning of the completion of the fitness test in less than 8 seconds, he was impressed. Lin Feng said that based on his personal analyses, this person must have maximized genes. He must also have cultivated a very good hypergene, and his beast soul is also of a sacred lineage. Completely curious, the short man wanted to know who he was. His true intention was to participate in the tournament of the Sons of God, so someone strong like this person could be problematic and needed to be eliminated. Lin Feng told him to get real. His prodigy certainly comes from an influential family. He would hardly be defeated by him. At that moment, the modestly tall man revealed that he had spoken out of turn. He wasn't being literal. The truth is that his friend was also curious, wanting to know who this prodigy was, as his strength could affect the dynamics of the shelter as a whole. Our protagonist continued his life normally. He couldn't disappear for a few days without King Xuan starting to get on his nerves. Using the excuse of being on her team, the captain wouldn't stop bothering him, constantly wanting to know his whereabouts. She instructed our protagonist to seek out his subordinate so that she could officially join his team. That excess of formalities left Han quite disheartened, and the captain hoped he would resolve all of this soon. Revealing that she would participate in a meeting with the Star Group, the death of our protagonist's father was related to this group, and apparently the captain knew that, under her tutelage, Han would be protected. Knowing this, our protagonist expressed his gratitude for her concern. The more he thought about it, the more signs there were that perhaps the captain was interested in him. He was being taken to the room of the woman the captain instructed him to talk to. Immediately, he greeted Leader Yang, saying he was there on the captain's orders. She didn't seem impressed with our protagonist, making it clear that he was 10 seconds late for that meeting. Han said it wasn't his intention to be late, but he ended up receiving a warning from the captain. Yang was outraged because he was attributing to others the responsibility of being punctual. Showing a paper on her desk, she said he should fill out that form. Our boy, thoughtful, imagined that Yang already hated him, even without reason. It was when the woman revealed a particular curiosity. She wanted to know what qualifications our boy had to make the captain break the rules of her own team to accept him. But our protagonist's processor was an overclock. The thermal paste had completely melted, because if Yang stayed in that position, he had no idea how he would return to thinking rationally. Using all of his concentration, he managed to fill out the form, and Yang told him to show up at the training field the next day. While they were talking, a transmission from the captain occurred. She was asking for the presence of Yang and our protagonist. Immediately, everyone saw the video of our boy's physical fitness test that ended up going viral quite a bit. Our protagonist was immediately surprised. He didn't know he had been filmed and was worried that his identity might be revealed. Yang soon recognized Moda and asked if anyone had seen his face, but the captain said that no one had. Immediately, our boy felt very relieved. Analyzing that video, the captain was sure that Moda must have his sacred lineage armor, and that was recorded at the physical fitness center. Now they need to find out who he is, as he would be very useful. Yang, on the other hand, couldn't think of any possible connection between Moda and influential families. Even so, the captain wanted to try to attract him to her team, so they wouldn't need the collaboration of bothersome people. Finally, our protagonist realized why she was so dedicated to recruiting new talents, as she was trying to disentangle herself from external help. Han said he heard that Moda only walks alone. It will be very difficult to try to convince him. But the captain has a trump card. She is sure that Yang will be able to convince him. Our protagonist realized that the strategy of the two would be sordid and cruel, and he was eager for this enjoyable game to start immediately. Back at his lodging, Han analyzed the creature he had captured. It was almost becoming something of sacred lineage. All he needed to do was wait just a few more days. After that, he returned once again to the training field. Several people were practicing there. Immediately, our protagonist recognized that wealthy young man who was also practicing. Only that the bespectacled boy didn't know Han in that way. It was then that our protagonist realized that the interaction he had with him happened through his pseudonym. Changing the subject, he said that the young man became known because he was the only one who seemed to know Moda. Then he asked why our protagonist joined that team, as the training was very exhausting. Han said that archers could stay in a safe place, something that was also shared by the bespectacled boy, but apprehensive, he gave a piece of advice to the rookie. Yang is crazy and likes to exploit newcomers. Our protagonist met her earlier and agrees with that assessment. While they were talking, both were surprised by Yang's reprimanding voice. She was already behind those young men with her mass intimidation weapons properly prepared and displayed. Several arrows were shot at the targets, and the bespectacled boy was scared, as each of them would have to shoot 1,000 times with a bow that required 7 points of strength. Yang made it clear that they could only leave after finishing that task. If they faltered, they would suffer physical punishments, which wasn't exactly a form of intimidation, not if it was done by Yang. But the bespectacled boy was completely desperate, as his strength had just reached 7 points now. Yang asked him to stay a little calmer, as the malicious supervisor had already left. It was then that the bespectacled boy said she would send someone to watch over them, and by the rules they needed to hit 1,000 times. Since there was no other option, our protagonist said they should start soon, as they had no deadline to finish, teaching that young man that a man needs to be resilient to trials. But having almost 10 points of strength would be easy for Han. The problem was that his colleague only had 7 points. On the other hand, if he could persevere, he would evolve a lot. While they practiced, some jerks passed by just to bother them, saying they were weak and weird. It seems they were going to hunt a sacred creature the next day, and the newcomers wouldn't go. The boy said that another clan found the monster, but they needed help to win. Han learned that they were the children of heaven, and now he understood why the captain went to that meeting. Amid the side conversations, the supervisor ordered them to return to training. Trying to talk to this man, the bespectacled boy asked him to speak with Yang, so he could finish his task the next day. Realizing it was a bribe, the supervisor immediately rejected the proposal. After that, he went straight to our protagonist, recommending that he stay in line and not try to take advantage of his closeness to the captain. And as they were ordered, they needed to make 1,000 shots. Only after that could they leave. Our protagonist is now increasingly determined, realizing that the rules in this place are very strict. However, the guy with glasses was upset because that supervisor always accepts bribes, but today he acted differently. It seems he wants to bring trouble to the protagonist. It's common knowledge in that place that this supervisor has a romantic crush on the captain. As soon as he learned this, Han realized that this place is much more problematic than he had imagined. In any case, he started practicing with a bow, hitting the target with great precision. The guy with glasses was impressed by this, as the distance is at least 150 meters. Han noticed that the training bow is much easier to use than the one he has, so it won't be a problem to shoot several times. In no time, he filled the target with arrows. The guy with glasses is impressed not only with all this accuracy, but also with our protagonist's endurance. The people who gathered data there are also surprised by this. It hardly seems like our guy has the nickname of Maniac. It doesn't take long for others to be amazed by his consistency, imagining that he must be training in secret. However, quite jealous, the supervisor said that our protagonist is just a nobody who will soon give up. Very focused on this task, Han recommended that the glasses boy do the same, as now is the time to train. Very determined, he hopes to complete the task that same day so they can hunt the next day. Han liked this determination and began to motivate his friend. If they continue like this, They will finish by midnight. All of this happens while they are being watched by the wonderful Yang. She really agrees with the captain. This boy has great talent. The question remains whether he will be able to fit in with the rest of the team. After much hard work, several arrows were shot. The glasses boy can hardly believe he was able to do this. His hands are numb, and our protagonist told him not to weaken yet. Excited to have been able to do that, the glasses boy revealed that if he were a girl, he would be completely in love with our protagonist, which is a very confusing revelation if you analyze it. But anyway, let's continue with the story. Han is thinking about what kind of sacred lineage creature they will hunt the next day as they need to prepare. The glasses boy has already obtained this information as there is nothing in this world that cannot be bought. Through an assistant, he learned that it is a winged creature. Han realized that this small detail makes everything more difficult. Since few subordinates of the Son of Heaven know how to use bows, that's why they asked for their help. Han realized that conventional arrows will not be able to pierce the creature. He needs something stronger. The ideal is metal Z, whose hardness and toughness are exceptional. If a small amount of this metal is added to his arrows, they become unbeatable. The problem is that it is very expensive. Knowing the composition of his own bow, which is 0.4% of this metal, the arrows need to have a little more than that. That's when he came across something interesting on the forum. He found arrows at a reasonable price with a composition of 1.2% of this metal. That night, he went for a walk in a rather suspicious part of the city, certainly geared towards adult entertainment and hiring paid companionship. It seems the seller was too mysterious over the phone and Han wasn't expecting to have to walk in that neighborhood. He even tried to have the arrows sent by mail, but it didn't work out. Finding a suspicious man, he presumed he was the seller. Immediately, that strange man identified our boy as the buyer, showing the arrow that he had handcrafted himself. Holding the artifact in his hands, Han confirmed that it is a beautiful piece of work. He wanted to know if he could cut it with his dagger, and the seller said it was up to the boy to do his tests. Han immediately ran the blade of his dagger along the body of that arrow. This proves that its composition exceeds 0.7% of metal Z, which is perfect. And the craftsman said he used the rolling of a warship to make it, which is why the composition is this way. Han was a bit skeptical, but after analyzing the item personally, he realized it was worth it. And that suspicious man said that if he needed other things, he just had to talk to him. The next day, everyone is gathered at the entrance of the shelter. The big-headed guy noticed that our protagonist is going to join them. Since the event where he was publicly humiliated, he has been eager to exact his revenge. That annoying guy who always wears white and supposedly uses a whip is very grateful for the captain's collaboration. Seizing the opportunity, the captain begins to talk to him. Taking advantage of the moment, the big-headed guy wants to know when a loser like our protagonist joined them. And the captain, outraged, said that Han is one of her men and should be respected. For now, he had to hide his annoyance. But he made it clear that our protagonist is a loser who needs a woman's protection. Immediately, as soon as he stepped away, the bespectacled boy went to our protagonist very concerned. But he is not intimidated at all by the big-headed guy's threats. Now they have a long way to go through the forest. Finally, the hunting group arrived at their destination. The captain will lead her members to lure the creature, so the second team can begin the attack. Trying to impress the others, the whip boy presented several arrows made of Z metal that could be distributed to everyone on the team. Except for our protagonist, my god, these guys really try hard to be childish. Yang was very upset about this since our protagonist is part of her team. But the childish one doesn't care, saying that if he gives out the arrows, he chooses who will receive them or not. As she is not willing to talk to someone whose maturity is lacking, Yang decided to do it her way. She asked one of her men to select the 5 best from the last test to receive these arrows. The rest of her team will use the standard equipment, which is equally good. Yang realized that the Son of Heaven is willing to cause trouble for our protagonist, and feeling jealous, she intensely wished she could smash his face in a fight. Obeying her orders, the supervisor began to organize the archers. He told our protagonist and his friend to stay a little further away since they are not elite, saying this very disrespectfully. Han comforted his friend, saying they should obey. But the bespectacled boy is very upset with this rudeness. It seems they are being victims of retaliation. Han already expected something like this, as the Son of Heaven hates him fiercely. The bespectacled boy would like to know how our protagonist manages to have so much self-control, as even he's hating that jerk. Han revealed that he is deeply irritated, but his focus is elsewhere. The best way to resolve this is by demonstrating his strength. They should focus on defeating the creature and capturing its beastly spirit. However, the bespectacled boy does not think that is possible. The arrows they have will not be able to hurt the creature. While reflecting on this, he heard a terrifying noise. The captain's team managed to scare the monster, which is now flying through the skies. Yang pointed at the dragon and ordered her men to shoot their arrows. Properly positioned, they obey her orders, and several projectiles begin to approach that creature. But upon touching its skin, nothing happens. It's as if the creature has an extremely durable natural armor. The bespectacled boy saw all of this and was frightened. Han said that these arrows are just a distraction. It would only be useful if they hit the creature's eyes, and he has a single arrow capable of piercing that armor. Han cannot get distracted now, and the immature jerk advanced to the front line. He believes that this time he will finish off the creature. By shooting one of his arrows, he managed to injure the monster's wing. Its roar of pain filled the skies. Han realized he needs to wait a little longer, as the creature's defense has not yet been destroyed. Even with one of its wings compromised, the dragon continues to fly. Yang will not let the Son of Heaven take advantage of their collaboration, sending a similarly devastating blow toward the creature. Little by little, the dragon is being defeated. Now that its wings have been injured, the ground team advances to get closer. Everyone is chasing the creature. Unfortunately, Han does not have any mount to help now, and he might arrive late to the creature. Knowing the risks, Han starts to run even faster, and the bespectacled boy said they won't make it in time. Near them, the captain was also moving. Our protagonist did not imagine she would get close to the creature so quickly, having come from the bottom of the cliff. Seeing our protagonist, the captain asked him to give her his hand, something he did gladly as he also wants to defeat that monster. Finally, they managed to hold on to each other. And now our protagonist rides on her back. The bespectacled boy asked to be taken by them. After being ignored, our protagonist is having to maintain all of his concentration while coming into contact with that beauty's body once again. Sensing the impurity of his thoughts, the captain ordered Han to behave, as she only gave the boy a ride because he is talented with the bow. Properly chastised, he said he would behave. However, her behavior is confusing and Han does not know if she is interested or if she just hates him. In any case, everyone arrived at the location where the creature is supposedly located, but the terrain is very steep. Upon reaching the site, the captain asked Yang what the prognosis was. A little distance away from them is the envious one, who can't stop getting irritated with our protagonist, who this time was brought there by the captain. Yang said that the dragon is at the top of the mountain and they might not be able to defeat it, even with arrows. The captain realized they need to find a way to climb, otherwise the monster will be able to regenerate. The idiot's idea is to send people to the top of the mountain to scare the creature away. However, his men noticed that it is too steep to be climbed. This only left the idiot furious, realizing that those men wanted to give up after everything they had done. To motivate them, he promised to pay a little more, which ended up motivating his mercenaries. Yang noticed that this is a standard behavior of that idiot. He motivates people with money, just so they throw their lives away. The captain is also trying to motivate people to defeat the dragon. The idiot said it would be better for her to wait down there, but the girl ignores him. In a petulant manner, the idiot pushes our protagonist to go with the captain, with the dubia protecting her. But what he truly desires is for him to die in the process. After some planning, the team begins to climb the cliff. Among them are the captain and our protagonist. At the top of that place, the dragon is positioned. As the first hunters approach, the creature begins to savor them. Finally, the captain managed to get close to the dragon. She instructs her men to find a strategic opening to shoot only then. Those who received her orders positioned themselves at the top of the rocks. Given the number of hunters, the creature began to dodge. Our protagonist observes the dragon from a safe distance. He realized that very soon he would be able to shoot something lethal. However, he was surprised by the arrival of the idiot, who also wants to defeat that dragon. To no one's surprise, the idiot had summoned a creature just to attack our protagonist. This caused him to fall off the cliff, as his goal is to end our boy's life. Fortunately, he managed to grab onto the rope he had used to climb. However, the impact was quite painful. Thanks to his physical enhancement, his bones are intact. Otherwise, it would have been fatal. Now our protagonist is harboring a personal hatred for this idiot. Returning to climb that mountain, he decided he wouldn't leave things like this. Finally, the creature being hunted had been surrounded. The captain is using her golden lion beast soul to fight, and due to the imperfection of the terrain, Han cannot use all his potential. He realized he needed to wait a little longer. The lion begins to bite the dragon, while the gorilla strikes it on the head. The battle between these creatures seems more like an episode of Power Rangers. Finally, the captain advances, ready to deliver the final blow. The same is done by the envious idiot. Both charge towards the creature. But even though it was injured, the dragon managed to repel its attackers, throwing the captain towards the rocks. This left our protagonist very worried. It seems the dragon is stronger than they had imagined, and it plans to change cliffs. Han cannot allow this to happen, or they will lose the chance to defeat it. He immediately prepared to grab his arrow. The idiot also does not want to let the dragon escape. Shooting in its direction, another one of his metals, the arrows. The projectile approaches the creature, and our protagonist felt that this was the moment, firing his arrow in sequence. The two projectiles travel side by side, but our protagonist is much larger, thicker, and stronger. The dragon still does not know what is about to happen, and its life was ended without it expecting it. Our protagonist was immediately surprised by this, and everyone realized that the one responsible for the execution was the depraved weirdo, which only made the idiot even more upset. After recovering from her injuries, the captain was surprised as well. Completely outraged, the idiot wants to know if our protagonist received the soul of that creature. In giving some vague answer, he said he wasn't that lucky. Even though he defeated the dragon, he gained absolutely nothing. Back at the office, the captain wants to know the truth and asked if our boy managed to get the soul of the purple-scaled dragon. Indeed, it belongs to whoever defeated it. That is the general rule. Han assured her that this did not happen, as he would not miss an opportunity like that to make money. All he did was shoot his arrow in the heat of the moment. The captain began to think that this might be true, as beast souls are not something very common. Worried about his safety, she asked our boy not to walk alone, as the son of heaven and his men must want to pursue him. Han thanked her for her concern and recalled what happened earlier. After defeating the monster, the jerk started hitting our protagonist. The captain had to step in to prevent that from happening. Definitely, Han needs to be more grateful to this woman. After all that, he managed to return home, having some time to rest. For the soul of that dragon belongs to him, and Han watches it in the palm of his hands. To this day, that shot with the arrow was the best of his entire life. Definitely, he will make a lot of money selling that. After leaving the bathroom, he noticed something. The skin of the beast he had captured had transformed. Finally, it reached the sacred lineage. The crystal he possesses is truly phenomenal. All he had to do was wait for 3 months. Compared to the jerk who has been struggling for over 10 years, the boy's pace is incredible. It's only a matter of time before he surpasses all those people and can advance to the second shelter. The time has come for Han to devour that creature. He needs to race against time to continue progressing this way. After eating that meat, he realized the flavor is very interesting. And thanks to that, he managed to gain sacred lineage points. In a single meal, he managed to gain 7 points, totaling 25 in total. The problem is that these Z-metal arrows are extremely expensive, and he needs to find a way to obtain beast soul arrows. His only source of research is the internet, but that won't be an easy task. Within the forum, he came across a discussion about an exploration in the swamp, which is a dangerous place. A player got there after being chased by a monster and learned that dangerous beasts reside there. He almost lost his life to a completely ordinary bee. Luckily, upon defeating it, he gained the poison arrow. If he had taken a little longer, he would certainly have been devoured, as he encountered a mutant creature there. This news filled our protagonist with determination and hope, as he needs to obtain that soul too. The problem is that the location of the Black Swamp was not shared. Even so, he decided to focus on what is most urgent. Back at his mysterious supplier, he asked if he made all those weapons. The craftsman did not expect his arrow to be used so soon, and now that our protagonist has returned, he would show him something much more interesting. Immediately, the craftsman showed a dagger with 5% Z-metal in its composition for the bargain price of 300,000. Our boy was very excited, and the value is equivalent to the arrow, but it has much more Z-metal in its composition, so he decided to buy it. He also noticed that there were several interesting weapons on the wall, but only one saber. Presuming it was special, he asked what it was about. The craftsman said that it is too good, having only 75% Z-metal in its composition and could be sold for 100 million. Han's first reaction was to be incredulous. That concentration is too high. Offended, the craftsman kicked our boy out of his shop, realizing he is just a broke kid. Looking back, our boy couldn't even understand what had happened. With current technology, it is very difficult to make a metal alloy with more than 5% of that metal. Now that he is outside, he felt his phone ring, so he immediately answered the call. He is being invited by Danfeng to appear at the Twilight restaurant the next day, as he needed to see something. Already at this restaurant, he is waiting for what Danfeng has to show, and the boy said it is certainly something exciting. Gathered with other people, there is also our protagonist's cousin, who did not expect him to show up. And the truth is that the feeling is completely mutual. However, our protagonist does not understand why his jerk cousin is acting so naturally with him. Finally, Danfeng was going to show what he has for them. In the palm of his hand was the soul of a beast, and it seems to be something very incredible. Han was impressed, as a weapon made with that must be very powerful. Danfeng agrees, saying he named the instrument Snow Tiger, which is a rather generic but very cool name. I would name my son Snow Tiger. But at that moment, our protagonist felt envy for this boy who already has a mutant beast soul. As he would no longer need his old dagger, Danfeng decided to give it as a gift to our boy. Knowing it is a quite expensive item, Han was hesitant to accept it. To his surprise, Danfeng said he didn't mind, recognizing that Han might need it more than he does. In light of that, our boy decided to accept it. Danfeng is truly a loyal friend, and our protagonist decided that he would repay that kindness in the future, as he ended up damaging his dagger while testing the hardness of the arrow with Z-metal. The envious cousin noticed that the two are very close, so he needs to get closer to that relationship as well. Determined to establish a good network of contacts, he approached our protagonist. That was when someone called him a bratty insolent. A woman with a weight problem asked him to take care of Mr. Hu's banquet, but apparently he neglected his responsibilities. The boy's mother dragged him outside, as he should be making friends with elite people, making it clear that there is the heir of a large mining company at that dinner. That's why they need to become friends. The obnoxious cousin knows that this mining company was small until recently, so it would be better to get close to this young prodigy, thus he wouldn't have to be a sycophant to his cousin. Danfeng watched as the obnoxious cousin was dragged outside, accepting everything his mother said. He definitely does not like that kind of attitude. There was a name mentioned that sounded familiar to our protagonist, Lin Baifeng. It seems he has heard about this person somewhere. The supposed important banquet is happening at that restaurant. Many people want to meet Mr. Lin, eager to flatter the boy in every possible way. Everyone wants to get close to that young heir. there is no one with genuine interest at this gathering. The overweight woman is going to introduce her son to him in hopes of establishing a connection. Lin Baifeng asked if they needed anything. Some envious people did not like that solicitous attitude. The woman knows that the young man is going to the same shelter as her son, and the more that conversation develops, the more uncomfortable he becomes. In that same place is our protagonist, and immediately his aunt noticed this. She said she needed to take care of a matter and would leave the young people talking. Approaching Han, she stated that this is not a place for kids. Given his despicable reputation, she wishes he wouldn't ruin her son's future, claiming that he is not deserving of any kind of gift. Our boy simply ignores that large candidate for type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and an early stroke. But this only made the overweight woman even more irritated. That was when Lin Baifeng noticed that the boy's mother seemed to be arguing with someone, but he soon identified our protagonist. He immediately went to him to hug him warmly, revealing that he missed him. He searched for his savior everywhere, and it was only at that restaurant as he heard he could be found there. Danfeng, hearing all that, was surprised and asked the boy to explain. Soon, the rumor that he was saved by our protagonist began to spread, building him a good reputation. Those who were surprised by this are our protagonist's despicable relatives. Very politely, Han stated that they would talk about it later, as the occasion is not opportune. The young man offered him a ride as he has his ship outside, but our boy declined. Very excited, Lin Baifeng asked to meet in the future, as he considers our protagonist his savior. The leeches in that hall want to know who this person is that was treated with great respect by the young heir. Surprised by this, Danfeng wants to know immediately how the story of him saving that young man happened. Han left there, leaving behind only his envious relatives who cannot accept that he is having blessings in his life. Finally, our boy managed to explain everything to Danfeng, realizing that he never imagined he would meet that young man again, and one thing he is sure of, with that wealth he can pay everything he owes. The calm in the city was interrupted by a sudden explosion. Our boy became quite worried, and a message from the system indicated that an unidentified object entered the city perimeter. People are running desperately, fleeing from the focus of destruction, but our protagonist does the opposite. He presumes that it might have been a ship that exploded, and only one race has spherical ships, the Shura. At this stage of human history, they are the only interstellar enemies that humans have. They are humanoid in appearance and have horns on their heads, a sign of status. For a long time, they were able to oppress humans. Things began to change 200 years ago when the shelters were built. Thanks to that explosion, the city is without power and communications have been blocked. Our protagonist is thinking about what that enemy race wants to do in this city. There may be many victims. Arriving at the building where the explosion occurred, he managed to identify the ship. In a completely unexpected way, there is a child hanging high among the debris. Our protagonist enters into despair, knowing that the fall will be fatal, but his eyes observe something dangerous. From inside that ship, the hatch was opened, revealing a dangerous Shura warrior. Han noticed that there was a golden horn on its head, a sign that it belonged to the nobility. And beside the creature was the child, defenseless. The monster prepared to reap its first life, but a golden flash approached it quickly. It was our protagonist who had entered the fray. Far away, a cameraman was capturing everything through his lenses. He did not expect the situation to unfold in so many ways. Our protagonist was approaching as fast as he could to prevent the child from being harmed. Thanks to his great agility, he managed to avoid the worst from happening. Showing great strength, he also held the Shura's sword, which was unable to injure him through that armor. The cameraman knew that this was Moda, and what he did now was definitely heroic. Our protagonist fled from there to preserve the child's life. However, he realized that the blade of that sword managed to damage his armor, a sign that a battle would be quite catastrophic. The Shura was determined to continue the violence. With a great leap, it reached our protagonist and struck him with its sword. It was almost worse. Han managed to perform evasive maneuvers, but he continued to be pursued by the creature. Destroying a window of a building, he managed to land with the child, and instructed the little one to hide under the table and not make any noise. At that moment, Han noticed something very strange. The situation had become much more complicated than before. The Shura was already too close to their location, managing to strike our protagonist once again. Even though his armor had not been destroyed, the pain was very intense. The cameraman did not understand why Moda did not dodge that blow, as his agility was surprising. This was already being broadcast live, and people realized that the Shura was a formidable enemy for evolved humans. At this rate, Moda would perish. Protecting the child, our protagonist continued to be beaten, which left the cameraman frightened, as he did not want to broadcast the execution of a person. Outraged, Han realized that he would not allow that child to have her future usurped. But the strength he had was not enough to subdue that enemy, who now seemed very motivated. The one in despair was the cameraman. He could no longer bear the tension of that moment, wishing for Moda to save himself. The people watching the broadcast were equally concerned. Before the Shura could execute its final blow, Han managed to move, grabbing the monster by the waist. He took both their bodies toward the ground, and the Shura asked if the young man was crazy. As they descended, the speed of both increased. This could definitely be fatal. A great impact occurred on the ground, and people wanted to know what the outcome was. The cameraman knew that this would be a major scoop, but he was still human and did not wish for Moda to have been defeated. He rushed to the epicenter of the impact, desperate, filming the body of the creature completely annihilated. But he still had doubts. He He wanted to know if Moda had managed to withstand that. Only then did he return to filming what was in that building. Many children were gathered on that floor. That was why Moda could not dodge the blows, and people realized that his action was even more noble. It didn't take long for that recording to go viral within society. Han realized that the Shura were indeed strong. Thanks to the strengthening of his body, he managed to leave without serious injuries. But he did not expect that action to have been filmed. Luckily, he managed to escape as soon as it was over. In addition, he obtained a small trophy, the sword that the creature used. Their forging technology is much better than human, and that is a war sword of a golden horned Shura. Certainly, if he used that, the people who saw the video would recognize the artifact. Han decided to make some changes to its grip and blade, and handling the sword, he believed he had broken it accidentally, realizing that, in fact, there was some kind of chip there. It must definitely be something good, so if he went to the computer to take a look, there was the content of a technique, the reverse heart cut. Our protagonist was immediately excited. Through those instructions, he realized he had enough strength to learn the technique. It didn't take long for him to put the movements into practice. Definitely, that was very impressive for him. After that, he received a call from Lin Bifeng. As soon as he answered, our boy asked what it was about, and the young man, quite excited, asked why Han had not appeared at the shelter in those days, as he had been waiting for him with something very cool. Han said he had been busy recently. However, he had been planning something for quite some time. Hours later, he went to talk to Commander Qin, as he knew she was a very generous woman. He told her that he is not interested in going to the Gavio Negro Military Academy. In fact, he wishes to attend the Logor Military Academy. The women heard this and became thoughtful. Yang was outraged by this, as Gavio Negro is among the best in the alliance, while the one our protagonist wants to attend is quite mediocre. The commander also mentioned that Gavio Negro has much better equipment and instructors, a great opportunity for growth. If he graduates from Logor, his military career will not be as promising. The problem is that the academy is on another planet, and our protagonist is worried about the safety of his family. Yang said that few have an opportunity as good as his. Only then did she tell the commander that the video analysis had been completed. Curious, they decided to take a look. What is playing on that screen is our boy's combat. He is deeply upset with the person responsible for the recording. After analyzing that data a bit, Yang concluded that the human warrior is extremely foolish. Very surprised by this comment, Han wanted to know what motivated it. She said that with wings and that agility, it would be much better for Moda to use distance in combat. Even so, he chose to duel up close. Commander Kim agrees with this assessment, also noting that if the Shura warrior had been injured in another way, Moda would have been defeated quickly. Han is surprised that they analyzed the data so quickly. This is the second recording they have of Moda. Surprisingly, he appeared with a pair of wings this time. Kim knows that his armor is of sacred lineage, quite different from the useless one who is with them in that room, and our protagonist replied that he cannot be compared to someone so promising. With great seriousness, the commander recommended that our boy think seriously about his desire to go to the military academy. Han realized that she wants to train him to become an elite soldier, but since he is still very young, he doesn't need to rush those plans. Recognizing that if he is to leave this planet, he needs to leave a good amount for his mother and sister. Thinking about this, he answered the phone as he was speaking with someone about the arrows with 5% Z metal that he had requested. Lin Bifeng is responsible for this, saying that his family is cooperating with the arrow manufacturers, but what he wants is to be taken on this adventure with our protagonist, guaranteeing that this time he would not be a burden. Han is genuinely worried as the place is dangerous. Being next to an heir would be very stressful. All he needs is just 2 arrows. Equipped with his gear, our boy leaves the shelter. He walks a bit through the forest, arriving at an isolated place. After a few days in that place, he finally managed to find the Swamp of Darkness, where that filming with the dangerous beast was done. Nothing can stop him now, as our protagonist wishes to obtain the soul of that creature. Indeed, the creatures inside the dark swamp are fierce and dangerous. Unfortunately, our protagonist cannot eliminate all of them. In the water, he saw several snakes swimming. He decided that this would be his first target. Since he only has 2 long-distance arrows, he needed to tie a rope to the end of each of them. The snake was quickly dispatched, and now our protagonist can fish for the creature he has caught. He was very excited about that hunting method. In the lake, there are also several fish, and our protagonist would not miss this opportunity, because he's a fan of sashimi. For him, the experience of fishing this way is very pleasant. But to his surprise, the fish managed to drag him for several meters. As he approached the creature, he cut it with his sword. In no time, he had already obtained a bestial soul and a mutant one. That place is paradise. As a result, he also managed to make a nice meal using that meat, which granted him several genetic points. What makes everything even better is that Mr. Mayada is by his side, feeding on those creatures as well. Unfortunately, the mutant fish has a bestial soul of the lance type, which is not very useful for Han right now, but it could be his substitute lance. Analyzing his item, he was startled by a sound that came from the bushes. Our protagonist encountered a huge winged creature. In a battle stance, he realized that mutant-level creatures do not attack humans without reason. To his surprise, that creature was being ridden by a hunter. He threw something toward our protagonist, suggesting a trade for the meal that is being cooked. Han did not expect there to be another person in that area and realized that that bestial soul is of the mount type. Nevertheless, he refused the young man's offer. Ignoring the warning, the young man tasted our boy's stew, claiming that the item he had offered for trade is very good. And just by having tasted that stew, he received a point of mutant gene, which left him quite excited. In light of this, he immediately became hostile, ordering our boy to agree to the exchange or he would be dinner for his bird. Maintaining his stance, Han said he was not willing to make that transaction. Even after saying this, the jerk decided to attack him, surprised by the defense of our protagonist's armor, which was not scratched. And now Han is going to retaliate against the attack, completely destroying that jerk's sword, suggesting that you should be more cautious when attacking a stranger. After making several strikes, our protagonist did not hit any. However, the boy had to dodge. Otherwise, he could end up getting hit, realizing at that moment that his face had been injured. Very angry with our protagonist, he got on his mount, promising that he would take revenge. Immediately, the large bird took to the skies. However, our protagonist spread his wings as he would not allow them to escape. Definitely, that unexpected sight left the boy very scared, and in the air, he became a much easier target. Our protagonist managed to stab him from behind, and now he will do it once more, hitting part of the boy's anatomy that should not be touched in that way at all. Very regretful, he begins to plead for forgiveness, saying that it is all his fault for being foolish. As a sign of defeat, the boy waves his own underwear in the air. That night, our protagonist kept him as a prisoner and decided to gather some information by asking where to find the mutant black stinger bee. The boy said that this monster is very dangerous and that if he were our protagonist, he would try to find it. The search begins in the middle of the dark forest. The jerk is guiding our protagonist to where the bees are, making it clear that this is dangerous. Han warned the boy and that for the sake of the lower ventral dorsal part of his anatomy, it is best that he follows the plan as, if successful, he would be rewarded with some mutant meat. Forced to cooperate, the boy is disappointed. But using his eagle, he dropped a large boulder in the middle of the forest, in a place with several nests of that type of bee. Noticing the large cloud of the swarm, he desperately asked the creature to fly higher. Our protagonist was waiting for this opportunity. He flies towards the bees, and using his sword, he managed to annihilate several. That brought a lot of excitement to Han. Thanks to his agility, he was able to pass through the creatures lethally. And now he finally obtained the beastly soul of the black stinger bee. Returning to the city, his mutant gene points increased to 47, while his sacred gene points are 29. It seems that the martial arts tournament is about to happen, and that is the last day for registration. For a brief moment, our protagonist forgot about that. If he could at least place 10th, he could attain a beastly soul of sacred lineage. He immediately goes to the building to register. His number for that is 8888, and for those who don't know, this work is Chinese, and the Chinese have a great superstition about the number 8, believing it brings luck and good fortune. Ignoring this fact, he noticed that the event became very popular that year. The arena is packed and people are eager to see the first battles. Several people are already fighting. The rules are simple. Each competition has 100 candidates. It is a fight among all, where only the winner moves on to the next phase. So far, 50 groups have fought. Our protagonist's group is number 88. It seems that you might not be able to compete that day. Han was surprised by the arrival of that jerk and his particular big-headed friend. Wanting to know if they are in the same group, the big-headed one does not make an effort to hide his dislike for the protagonist. At that moment, Commander Kim appears, as she knows it will soon be the Celestial Sun's turn to fight. He is very confident that he will be able to advance to the next phase, and he asked the beautiful woman to watch his fight. Immediately, the woman asked if our protagonist was afraid of that jerk, and he said yes. Increasingly interested, she asked why. And our boy said that he is very strong in addition to being the heir of an influential group. However, Yang said that when killing the purple-scaled dragon in front of him, the boy did not hesitate. Immediately, the commander asked if everything our protagonist does is to protect his family. She was so assertive that Han is wondering how she was able to figure everything out, and indeed, his greatest treasures are his sister and mother. She was very pleased to realize that he is a good son, an even greater reason for him to go to the Black Falcon Military Academy. But our protagonist was confused by these words. The commander made it clear that once he enters this place, he will be inserted into a special team, and his family members are protected by the army itself. No one will be able to reach them, not even the Son of Heaven. Our protagonist was quite curious to know what kind of work this team does, and the commander warned that you will soon find out. After learning about these benefits, Han began to consider the possibility of going to this academy. He did not risk leaving his family in danger. Several competitors are waiting to enter the arena. It seems that one of them is late. This is leaving the whole group quite upset, until a man in armor apologized for the delay. All the other competitors immediately became frightened as they knew they would have no chance. The competitor Coin went there to showcase his performance and put on a show for the audience. Now that they are in the arena, Coin is beating up his opponents. All of them are having their bones shattered. There is not one who can surpass his strength. Our protagonist is surrounded by beaten and defeated men. He is just waiting for the approach of those who are still left. The more sensible ones decided to accept defeat. It is better than getting beaten for free. Our protagonist appreciated that good fight, celebrating his victory in the first phase of the tournament. Several people are impressed by that display of strength. While he celebrates, Commander Kim approached as she wanted to talk to him. Our protagonist became a bit worried as she came accompanied by the other two fools. He knew that the commander wanted to make a proposal for him to join her regiment. The little fool is upset that Coin has stolen his beasts twice. Still, he went there to hear the boy's response. Commander Kim said that they lead the largest organizations in that shelter, and they are allies, and that is why they need to make him cooperate. Coin said that he will not be an enemy of anyone, but he also does not wish to ally himself as he likes being a lone wolf. The other guy even agrees with this, but would like to gather some information on where Coin usually hunts his beasts. Unfortunately, our protagonist cannot reveal that he does this by cultivating the beasts with a crystal. He said he was just lucky, and that he has dozens of mutant beasts to sell. The guy became quite enthusiastic about this, wanting to buy them all, which left the commander furious for being ignored. In light of that competition, the bigger fool is willing to spend a lot of money to achieve this. For those who claim to be allies, it was easy for our protagonist to create enmity. It was at that moment that he said he would not sell the beasts he captured for money. What he desires is the access card for purchases in the S-level lounge. Immediately, the three were surprised by this, as this zone has the highest level of restriction, where money is not enough to pay. The rich boy said he is willing to pay 2 million for each beast, but our protagonist rejected that offer. That night, on the same day, he met with the commander in the middle of the forest. She managed to get the card that Coin was desiring. Receiving that, he realized that she is much more trustworthy than those other two guys. As payment, there are 30 black sting bees which will guarantee her many mutant genes. There is also a lot of processed meat from sawfish and from the snakes he hunted. All of this could be sold for 3 million. The commander accepted the price. However, she made it clear that she does not do business with him just because of those gene points. Back in his room, Han realized that it was easier than he had imagined. She will continue trying to make him join her regiment. If she knew who he really is, she would certainly faint from frustration. In any case, our boy needs to find a hypergene technique with this card. He realized it would be very good to teach something to his family, thus worrying less about the safety of both. The Sacred Angel technique seems interesting, as the cultivation process is peaceful and very gentle. It is like having indestructible bones gradually strengthening the cultivators. However, the boy realized that it does not compare to Xulinyan's techniques. The next day, our protagonist went to his sister's school to ask for a break for her, informing the school's administration that he needs to resolve family matters. The teacher said that the child's guardians are a bit irresponsible, as they have never shown up since she started studying there, only the brother. Our protagonist revealed himself to be quite a coward, and instead of sharing the truth and saying that they are orphans, and that he is the breadwinner, he simply said they are very busy. The teacher said that the girl is very talented, however, her diet is very basic, and this could compromise her development. Our protagonist was left confused by those words, and the teacher said that there are meals with quality nutrients that can fully nourish the body. Immediately, our boy asked how much they would cost, and the teacher said that the price of these meals is 15 million per year. Our protagonist does not have that amount yet and will not ask his mother. He needs to cultivate more mutant creatures with a crystal. Back at home, his younger sister continues to practice tirelessly. Indeed, she is very talented and learns very quickly, which makes Han very proud. Approaching the little girl, he said that she will be responsible for teaching their mother how to use the Sacred Angel. She was very pleased with this responsibility, and our boy realized that she trains very well, making it clear that this will be a family secret and that soon she will receive S-level meals. The girl is eager because she wants to become as strong as her brother. In Commander Kim's office, Yang asked if she would really do that. After a long time, she is still waiting for an answer. The woman's patience is wearing thin. Showing a small pill, Yang said that this man is not worth the effort, but she will not question the commander. At another moment, Kin is in the training room practicing with our protagonist, who continues to be beaten by her. But this time, the commander is not holding back. Kim noticed that he has made little progress lately, revealing that she had high expectations for this boy. She ordered him to drink water and rest because he is not capable of continuing to train at this level. However, our protagonist noticed that she also became very tired. Han drank the water that was given to him by the commander, and something began to happen in his head. Immediately, his thoughts went to a place that was too strange, and he imagined the commander interested in him in a very adult way. Thanks to the jade skin, purity can be maintained in his body, and Han is warned of all spells and poisons. He realized that there was something in that water, so he is thinking about the commander's true intentions. Imagining that the drug took effect, she approached our boy to ask which part of her interested him the most. Our protagonist was outraged because that was completely out of context, like he would not let her find out that he was not hypnotized. He decided to give random answers, saying that he really likes her front commission because the twins are very interesting. The commander asked why he chose that part. Our boy said that he likes the symmetry and the tasty appearance they have. It makes him want to bite. Receiving these answers, the commander realized that all men are the same. Even so, she continues with this temptation, suggesting that our protagonist touch the twins. With great effort, he raises one of his hands, but the commander did not let that happen, noting that obedience comes from the hypnotic effect. Now that everything is working, she asked if our protagonist is Moda. Without thinking twice, he said no. Now she wants to know why he does not want to go to the military academy, Black Hawk, and our boy said that it is far from his home and he is worried about his family. Finally, she realized the true reason why he is so apprehensive. Taking the opportunity, Kin, who is not ill-intentioned at all, asked what our boy thinks of her, pretending to be under the effect of hypnosis. Thinking about this became very laborious for Han. Our protagonist's answer is that she is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen in that shelter. Such sincere words left the commander quite embarrassed. As she was not expecting something like that, she decided to slap our boy's face. He immediately came back to himself and asked what had happened, because all he remembers is fainting after drinking that water. The commander said that the fight was too intense and he fainted from exhaustion. She was just trying to wake him up. However, she regretted getting angry because she could have asked several questions at that moment. Our protagonist, on the other hand, realized that with a few questions he managed to make her flustered, which is very interesting. But now, with fewer suspicions about him being Moda, preserving his identity became easier, so he can gradually reveal his true potential until the character he created is forgotten. At night outside his shelter, he met with Lin Baifeng, all to avoid drawing anyone's attention. Inside the bag are the fish he confirmed he would deliver. However, in that same place are two idiots, one whose name I refuse to learn and the big-headed one who always walks in his shadow. Lin Baifeng found it very peculiar that the Son of Heaven was there too, claiming that our protagonist is his friend. The big-headed one immediately felt the urge to put his revenge into practice but was stopped by the other idiot. In light of that, the biggest jerk said they wouldn't waste time on this fight. Our protagonist learned from them that in the next phase of the tournament, Moda will fight against Kabukido. The next day, everyone is gathered in the building where the challenge takes place. The audience is quite enthusiastic and the wealthy boy with glasses is cheering for his friend Moda. Then he noticed that there was a heavily cloaked man beside him. Curiously, he asked if the man wouldn't feel hot with that excess clothing. After that, he heard from the supervisor of his regiment that Moda stole sacred lineage beasts from the Son of Heaven. As retaliation, he lent some to his current opponent. For the boy with glasses, this is irrelevant since Moda has many skills and various tools that can be used. As there is no consensus among them, they decided to bet on who would be the victor, and the supervisor guaranteed that he would deliver the soul of his beast. The boy with the glasses became interested in that proposal. It was then that Yang said they are idiots, since the tournament is not related to them and yet they want to risk losing their possessions. Finally, the match is about to begin, but the audience cannot see Moda. To everyone's surprise, a man in the cloak beside him revealed to be our protagonist in his armor. The boy with glasses was impressed by this and even Yang, who couldn't perceive him. Very excited, the boy with glasses said that Moda needs to defeat him quickly, and our protagonist realized that this jerk doesn't stop causing problems. Inside the arena, Kabukido is about to take the worst beating of his life. He just doesn't know it yet. Our protagonist knows that his current condition is very good, as he has 3 sacred lineage beast souls and 4 that are mutants. Inside the arena, he approaches his opponent. The match has begun and Kabukido is ready to attack our boy. He summons the soul of the great gorilla, immediately taking on its form. In the audience, that jerk supervisor already believes he will win, while the boy with glasses is anxious for our protagonist. The Son of Heaven is also watching that match closely, as he invested a lot in Kabukido's victory. But the truth is that he would like to personally defeat Moda. Clad in power, our protagonist is not intimidated by that great gorilla. Then he jumped to attack, striking his spear against the creature's shoulder. But that was not enough to hurt it. With a single blow, the gorilla managed to break our protagonist's spear, which was celebrated by the jerk's supervisor. The same reaction was also shared by the biggest jerk. The gorilla is now increasingly furious, charging at our protagonist. Now Moda will use his agility to escape. As soon as he gained distance, he showed his sword, and this time he managed to cut deeply into the creature's flesh. With that single blow, the gorilla was defeated. The audience watched all of this without understanding anything at all. The poor guy who bet his beast's souls is completely paralyzed. Yang and the boy with glasses are also surprised, even though they were cheering for Moda. And since he won in record time, the boy with glasses was very happy. It took a while for the biggest jerk to accept what happened. He can't believe that Kabukido, even using his sacred beasts, was unable to win. And now he is completely defeated in the arena, his body covered in wounds, all while the arena cheers for Moda's victory. Our protagonist looks at the Son of Heaven very pleased with what he has done to him. Thus he is eager to meet him in the arena. Outside, the boy with glasses is unveiling the new beast he received, as it looks very cool. Our protagonist realized that this victory demoralized the Son of Heaven. However, the biggest winner was the boy with glasses, who now has a mount. As soon as the boy found our protagonist, he said that Miss Yang was looking for him. Worried, Han warned that he hasn't broken any rules in the past few days. Since he has a mount now, the boy with glasses offered a ride, which was declined by our protagonist. The truth is that he is dying of envy for that mount and soon wishes to have one for himself as well. Finally, Han arrived at Miss Yang's office, and she informed our boy that the commander authorized his special training to be advanced. Given what happened to them recently, our boy was already expecting something like this. Yang said that he will go to the testing hall every day for training, making it clear that if he doesn't pass this test or finds it too tiring, he can give up. He ended up going to the army's testing hall, returning to Miss Yang after completing that entire evaluation. She realized that all of our boy's stats are below 10, saying they are worse than she was expecting. The truth is that our boy had to hide his true attributes so as not to scare her off right away, and that was the most exhausting thing he has done to date. Yang now wishes to move on to the next level, which left our boy curious. Miss Yang went to the army testing room, accompanied by our protagonist. She said she would only show it once, and outside, they watch what she does through a camera. They are common movements. A mustached man said that it is not that simple, as there is a gravity generator in that room. Training in there is basically a trip to Namek, but without being Goku. Yang may seem very relaxed, but that only happens because she is exceptionally strong. If physical strength does not have a score of 10 points, it is hard to endure that training. After she left, she told Han to try to do the same and then report his progress to her. After saying this, she thought that the boy would have a reality shock. The mustached man was worried about the rookie, as the value Yang set is certainly higher than what he can handle, and if Han wanted more tips, he should provide some cigarettes to the mustached man, who has a lot of information to sell. Faced with that, Han was tempted to trust this man, as it is very hard to be suspicious of a chubby, average-height man with a mustache who enjoys good cigarettes. Finally, the test began. Inside, our protagonist felt his body heavier. But since our protagonist wants to know his limits as well, he decided to increase the value set by Yang. He wants to use his strength to the maximum. After that adjustment, he started to practice his strikes, for his true goal is to strengthen himself. Finally, the end of the day arrived. After seeing those stats, Yang slammed her hand on the table in anger, wanting to know if our protagonist had cheated. But Han assured her that he did what she said, and the entire process was recorded by the cameras in that room, in addition to being monitored. Yang realizes that the information is normal, but the boy's body is too weak. It is impossible that he finished so quickly. Han said that training might have unlocked his true potential, and he is very grateful for that, as he only achieved this result because of Yang's actions. For a brief moment, she looked very confused, revealing to be embarrassed by this compliment, assuring that she will train him even harder from now on. Our protagonist realized that compliments work very well with her. The next day, people are still talking about what happened at the martial arts tournament. There are already people wishing for Moda to fight against the Son of Heaven, but he ended up being eliminated by King Xuan. Finally, our boy brought the cigarettes to the mustached man, who gave him tips. While puffing on that cancerous delicacy, the chubby man praised those cigarettes. Now he would show his sincerity, showing something to our protagonist, almost surprising him with a knife. Han was quite confused by that sudden attack, noticing that the dagger had disappeared from the chubby man's hands and reappeared again. The mustached man said that this is called a hidden blade and wants to know if the young man wishes to learn it. Once again, our protagonist returned to the army testing room. This time, he used a kind of simulator. That is the necessary platform for him to learn the hidden blade technique, and the good thing is that it seems to be a very fun game. He can only touch the three-dimensional projections, but he needs to move smoothly and precisely. It is a way to train arm agility and reaction speed, however, it is very difficult. Outside, the commander arrived and asked the mustached man if our protagonist is practicing the Hand of God. At that level of difficulty, he will take at least 7 years to learn the technique. Disappointed, she imagined that Han would never reach the last level. However, any progress there will be beneficial. Later, the arena is filled with people as the final event has arrived. Everyone is eager to find out who the true victor will be. Quite disappointed that Bigger Jerk wishes for our protagonist to give up, as he does not want to see his rival defeated by someone else. Who would have thought the Son of Heaven has conflicting feelings about our protagonist? I always knew. His little face does not fool anyone. Moda and the commander are entering the arena. Our boy thanks the support of the crowd, but he is completely stressed, as he knows he will have to fight against the most powerful woman in that place. His nervousness is so great that his hands won't stop shaking. The commander suggested an agreement. If he loses, he'll have to join her regiment when she is promoted to the next shelter, and he will be the commander of that. Our protagonist was quite surprised by this proposal. Outside, the Son of Heaven wants to know why she made this invitation. The bespectacled young man hopes that our protagonist will accept, as this is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime offer. Moda thanks her for the generous offer, but states that he cannot accept. This piques the commander's curiosity. He then says that there are 2 reasons for his rejection. The first is that he will not lose, and the second is that he will go to the second shelter before her. After hearing that, besides being outraged, the commander said that he is very arrogant. And indeed, even our protagonist does not know why he chose such aggressive words, as he is not sure if he will be able to win. Yang, hearing this, was sure that he is crazy. While the bespectacled young man believes that Moda is very cool, he does not bend to any kind of wealth. The Son of Heaven, on the other hand, is desperate and is hoping for the violence to be so intense that the two will kill each other. Unexpectedly, our protagonist approached the woman and said that if she is victorious, she will reveal her true identity. But if she loses, she will have to give him an S-level card to shop at the Sacred Hall. Liking that proposal, she is ready for battle. Moda identified the technique of the butterfly knife of the poisoned heart. If hit, even her armor will not withstand. As there is no chance of going back on his words, he took the sword, for he would do anything to win that duel. His advantage in combat is that he knows a lot about his opponent, while she knows little about him. His first attack was ineffective, as the commander managed to dodge. She did several backflips, gaining space to surprise our boy, and she said in a not-so-suggestive manner that his sword is very good, but is too big. She is close to hitting Mota with her dagger. However, our protagonist was not frightened by that approach. Even the commander was surprised that he was not dodging, and this left her very confused. It was when she realized that she was being drawn into a close-range fight. To her, this is a foolish strategy, and Mota said that with the protection of his armor, the dagger is not lethal. Kin, on the other hand, can be sliced into several pieces. The commander manages to dodge everything and is becoming more and more motivated. Mota is already getting tired as all of his attempts are failing. At that moment, he realized that the commander is truly powerful. In the audience, people noticed that the commander is overpowering her opponent. Yang said that gradually Mota's strength is being suppressed as the commander masters the technique of atomic fission. Curiously, the bespectacled young man asked what it is about, and this is a martial art that allows the commander's genes to release energy through fission, strengthening her body for a long time. Kim's goal is to rank among the best warriors this year. That is why she needs to win. The Son of God is intensely wishing for our protagonist to be defeated. For God's sake, this guy is very confusing. Sometimes he is a fan, sometimes he is a hater. But someone next to him eating popcorn stated that Mota will not lose. He quickly identified those people as Mr. Yuan and his friend. He said that he is too young to judge the strength of that fight. In a provocative manner, the modestly tall young man commented that Mota has stolen many good souls from that jerk, which left the Son of Heaven quite outraged. The truth is that Mota has become a legend throughout that shelter. That is why he cannot lose. The commander is not tired thanks to her nuclear fission technique. However, she cannot understand why her opponent is still not fatigued. Our protagonist knows what she is thinking and stated that he has not yet tired. He wishes to become the best warrior of that shelter. That is why he needs to have the endurance to withstand that fight. The indestructible bone spell lowers the body temperature, which also reduces energy consumption. Mota thought he would have a disadvantage in endurance, but in practice, he realized that it is the opposite, and the commander is willing to use another ability. Making her hands glow, she was going to merge her beastly souls. A great energy began to take over her body, and a large lion started to materialize. The Son of Heaven realized that she was uniting the beastly soul of the water elf and that of the golden lion. Yang is also impressed, as it is the first time she has seen something like this. The bespectacled young man knows that water spirits can use this element to defend against attacks. Mota was surprised by the lion's paw and ended up losing control of his sword. He had to flee to avoid being caught. Thanks to the protection of that beast, his attacks would not be very effective. Immediately, he made wings appear on his back. This way, he managed to escape the creature's reach. The boy with the glasses was impressed to witness this, as he never imagined Mota could fly. Yang began to get angry with his optimism, as the boy should be rooting for the commander. The moderately tall young man knows that the commander does not have wings, and now she has a strategic disadvantage. Our protagonist manages to dodge all of her attacks. This only makes King Swan increasingly furious. Even the audience is quite perplexed, not liking to see our protagonist flee from the fight. Very upset, the commander taunts him, asking him to come down and fight like a man. However, Mota is determined to achieve victory. He will not give up his advantages. He asked if the commander in his place would do something like that, asking for his opponent to be weaker so he could be defeated. That left the woman speechless, as she was defeated in the argument. Not even Naruto would do that well. Even the boy of simple height realized that this makes sense. What matters is the result. Turning his back to the arena, he told his friend that the competition was over, leaving behind the very angry Son of Heaven, who still has not accepted the obvious. After being hit by the technique of speech, the commander is completely furious, as she cannot even touch her opponent. Undoing her transformation, she accepted her defeat, a gesture that surprised everyone. No one in that arena understood why she had done something like that. In light of this, Mota was declared the champion of this year's martial arts tournament and will represent the armored shelter in the divine battle in 10 days. The boy with glasses enthusiastically celebrated his hero's victory. The commander said that if Mota wants the S-level card, he needs to go to her regiment to collect it. With the conclusion of this year's martial arts tournament, the list of the top 100 fighters was engraved on a monument, and to the surprise of the people, Mota's name was in first place, even though it is his pseudonym. Our protagonist is imagining that Commander Kim must be very upset, so he should be cautious when approaching her to claim his reward. However, he is focused on the battle that will take place in the next 10 days, as the reward will be the beastly soul of a sacred lineage. In light of this, he returned to practice at the regiment's headquarters. The boy with the glasses praised his hand's skill, saying that he could try a little less and not be punished. But our protagonist is not satisfied with his current performance, which is why he continues training. Later that same day, he returned to the gravity generator, which piqued the curiosity of some bystanders and that chubby mustached man. The peculiar figure imagines that Miss Yang has not discovered the information modified by the protagonist, but is curious about something, wondering why he spends so much time in that place. Inside, our boy increased the difficulty once again, as he is determined to become the strongest Goku. and this is proving to be challenging. Those who will fight in the divine battle are the best fighters from different shelters, and several must be stronger than Han himself. It has been several days since the fight between Commander Kim and Mona took place. Even so, he has not gone to claim his reward, which makes her impatient. As it was already late that day, she noticed that someone was still training in the military hall, which piqued Kim's interest. Realizing that the one responsible for this training session is our protagonist, and since last time he was at the beginner level, she went to see what level he was at now. To her surprise, he has already evolved stage 3. It is surprising that he achieved this in such a few days. For someone with undeveloped genes, this is almost impossible. The commander herself took years to reach the same level, which makes her realize that Han's potential is indeed high. Within that game, our protagonist is striving for a more refined mastery over his movements. Finally, he completed the stage, which made him quite happy. Outside, he was surprised by the commander, who offered him a bottle of water. Our boy is very hesitant to accept it, as last time too many peculiar things happened, and seeing this, he thought about the reasons that could make the commander treat him so well. She seems not to like insisting on kindness and offered the water once again. Stepping away from Han, she felt relieved that he is one of her men, seeing that soon he will be able to wear a long-range battle armor. A few more days pass, and we are now on the eve of the divine battle. Han is quite nervous, analyzing the other candidates and identifying which ones are the most dangerous. There are two men who caught his attention. One of them is admired by Danfeng, while the other has a name similar to Libaifeng. It is possible that they entered the shelter a long time ago, which leaves our protagonist curious about the reason they stayed there for so long. Not considering the combat skills they may represent, the beastly souls they possess are already dangerous enough. Han knows that if he wins, it will be by a narrow margin. His thoughts were interrupted by a call from an unknown number. As soon as he answered the call, he realized it was Feng. After a few moments, our boy remembered him, and for those who don't remember, he is the annoying guy with the cute sister, a childhood friend of our boy who ended up getting beaten up by him, which was well deserved. He only called our protagonist to talk about the battle the next day because someone who lives off betting asked him to call Han. He made it clear that his friends would reward him very well, and this seems to have piqued our protagonist's interest. A recording of a fight is being watched. It seems that that man defeated his enemies with great ease. Our protagonist is gathered with these men. It appears that this is the reason he was called there. Our boy did not imagine that Fang's friends could be Lin Feng himself and the moderately tall guy named Tang Zhenliu. After analyzing the video, he realized that those movements are similar to the Hand of God technique he has been practicing. He asked who that person is, and the economically tall guy said it is Dong Mu, the grandson of an influential senator. Our boy does not wish to get involved with people from that background because if there is one thing an export person knows how to do, it is to avoid problems. Then the guy of little stature said that they who are rich cannot get close. Imagine Han, who's poor. All they want is for our protagonist to replicate their skills and start practicing with them for the divine battle. Han was surprised by this invitation because he knows that the gambler in that room is much better at combat than he is. The blonde even tried to do this but heard from the very person that our protagonist has great potential. Everyone is talking about the time he took to reach the evolved stage 3. Immediately, our protagonist had to contain his enthusiasm because he knows that Tang Zhenliu is a famous person and helping him will be rewarding. In light of this, he asked for an S-level purchase card at the Sacred Hall to be able to help. This was promptly agreed upon by everyone, and he needs to practice soon because the divine battle will start the next day. It was already very late, and the moderately tall guy began to get nervous because our protagonist had not yet finished his analysis. Finally, he was ready because he managed to observe Dongmu's technique perfectly. The blonde named Tang noticed that Han is very confident. Our boy showed him a dagger that was not sharpened and is very light. It will be used in training to avoid injuries. Our boy agrees with this and executed a very quick movement, completely surprising the moderately tall guy who was unable to see those movements. And here I will open a parenthesis. Unfortunately, the illustrator increased this citizen's size. He is clearly on par with the others. Our protagonist continues to press on, saying that the blonde's enemy will show no mercy. While moving his hands, the dagger disappeared, leaving the blonde quite surprised, since Han's hand movements are incredibly fluid, until a small wound was made on Tang's cheek that left him quite apprehensive, and our boy made a point of saying that the dagger was not sharpened. After that first contact, it seems that Tang decided to retaliate seriously, pressing our protagonist hard, who was thrown far away with a kick. After that blow, he realized that his opponent is powerful and has superior physical constitution. Now more engaged, Tang asked our protagonist not to get distracted. Han knows he is no match for him in physical power, but his body combat techniques may be superior. A completely surprising Tang, he advanced to attack. However, the guy managed to dodge it, being prepared to counterattack due to his superior speed. However, his strike ended up being intercepted by Han, who used that opening to counterattack, bringing his hand with the dagger dangerously close to Tang's neck. The guy has no idea how our protagonist switched the weapon from Han so quickly. Observing all this, the other guy who was watching everything praised that performance, recognizing in Han a more formidable opponent than Dongmu himself. Thanks to that help, Han managed to get the S-level card. and he is also very happy to have defeated Tang. This only happened because the guy gave our boy an opening. In a fair competition, it would have been more difficult. Not to mention that Lin Feng just stood by watching everything, so he has no idea of his strength. The hidden blade technique is known for being flexible, and Dong Mu is better than our boy in that aspect. And in possession of that card, Han thought about buying a supernuclear gene technique to improve his movement. Meanwhile, Tang confesses that he couldn't gain an advantage over Han during training. Apparently, Lin Feng is right about him. Even the guy said that our protagonist might be superior to Dong Mu. If he had been born into a good family, he would be formidable. Hearing this, Yang was impressed with this positive assessment. He even asked if Lin Feng could be surpassed by him, but the guy said that in that shelter, he is invincible. Finally, the day of the divine battle has arrived, and many people are gathering outside the arena. Many people are there just to see Moda fight, among them the little boy with glasses. Our protagonist is welcomed like a celebrity by the crowd. Everyone is eager to see his performance. It was at that moment that he realized the extent of his popularity, wishing that in the future, he could do this with his original identity. While walking towards the portal, he wished to show Commander Qin all his potential because he will bring glory to this shelter. The narrator informs the audience that this battle will be fierce. The fighters in this stage are winners among the best. As soon as he analyzed the fight keys, our dear protagonist came across something unusual. He and Dong Mu are distant in the combat keys. If both are not eliminated, they will fight each other in less than 10 stages, and he will only face Tang or Lin Feng if he enters the top 10. The curious thing is that Tang was worried about something that might not happen and thus prepared our protagonist to fight against that guy. All of this only made Han even more excited, believing he is ready to win. Tang had his first fight and ended up annihilating a filler character. Mona watched that fight very closely, noticing the blade technique of his possible opponent. Lin Feng also emerged victorious, but at the end of the fight he seemed exhausted. This was also noticed by Moda, who was interested in Lin Feng's full capacity. Even though he won, his fighting style remains quite mysterious. Since it wasn't his turn to fight yet, Moda hurried to see Dong Mu's battle, and going to the appropriate stands, he came across Lin Feng. He immediately greets Moda, saying that it is a coincidence they met in that place, saying that our boy is talented. Our boy greets him back, saying that he is just a normal person. Lin Feng said that everyone is normal until they achieve greatness, and he wished to meet Moda in the final of that tournament. Some fillers that were impressed by this friendly treatment, and our boy became suspicious of it. Realizing that besides being mysterious, Lin Feng could also represent danger, Dong Mu is going to fight a generic swordsman, and this fighter has heard of his opponent's abilities. Even so, Dong Mu remains focused on the fight. In the audience, they are talking about the Dragon Swordsman, who is a formidable fighter and placed 10th the previous year. They had barely finished speaking when something surprising happened. Dong Mu had defeated his opponent. All of this with precise and effective movements. He even finished the fight with a slightly unnecessary blow that was so fast that the audience couldn't understand. That fighter was truly finished, leaving the audience quite shocked. Mona realized that death would be inevitable as the first injury had been fatal, that Dong Mu executed another blow, showing that he is a sadist. The fight was so surprising that Tang thought that might not be the real Dragon Swordsman. LI and FFAMG on the other hand said they need to be cautious as this fighter is dangerous, feeling a lot of stress. Tang suggested they go have some drinks, but his friend has a fight to watch before that. It is our protagonist who is fighting now, and his opponent is an archer. Our protagonist noticed that the arrows are from the same beastly soul he possesses. Knowing they are poisonous, he deflected both with his spear. Even so, he continues to be targeted. Dodging is becoming increasingly difficult, and to his surprise, those arrows are capable of following the target, which demands even more skill from our warrior. Tang is also watching this fight now and noticed that Moda is being pressured. Some people in that audience do not know our protagonist, and seeing him evade the attacks, they presume that he might not be that good. And suddenly, our boy manifests his wings, quickly ending the fight. Tang was not expecting this type of strategy, found our protagonist quite ordinary. 2 days after that stage of the combat, several people are commenting online about what happened. Yang showed the commander a news article about the Battle of Moda. Some people are already considering him the winner of that competition, and Commander Kim thinks that is very exaggerated, while others, on the other hand, believe he won by luck and must be quite mediocre. Yang knows that Moda has faced very challenging fights lately and will soon face Dong Mu. Commander Kim doesn't care about that. Since she was defeated by Moda, she wishes for him to win against any opponent. There is also a behind-the-scenes video that she wants access to, and it features Moda talking to Lin Feng. She was surprised that this young man expressed interest in fighting Moda. Yang said that online both are being ridiculed. One has exaggerated fame, while the other is the champion of the runners-up. Finally, the second day of battle has arrived, and our protagonist has been paired with someone special. Dong Mu made it very clear he is going to exterminate our boy's life. A fierce battle is about to take place between them. Already in his centaur form, our protagonist advances into combat. Those watching the battle found this very strange. It's in hand-to-hand combat. Dong Mu is superior. Noticing this approach, the sadistic one became even more confident, invoking the soul of a huge beast similar to a primate. Tang knows that Mode uses the bestial soul of a sacred lineage and is wondering why his opponent didn't do the same, and Lin Feng said is inappropriate. Since Dongmu is favored in hand-to-hand combat, he cannot use a bestial soul that does not favor the same thing. That is why he uses this giant monkey. And apparently he believes he will win this way. After jumping into the air, Dongmu lunges with his dagger, making a dangerously close strike to our protagonist. He then managed to hit in with his tail. Our protagonist knows this movement very well as he has replicated it exhaustively, and now he advances with his alien sword. Dongmu believes that is a common move. But in the middle of the trajectory, Mode did something interesting. He changed the grip of the sword, leaving Dongmu quite worried. Lin Feng recognized the variant of the Hand of God, realizing that Mode never disappoints him. Thanks to that quick technique, our protagonist managed to cut his opponent. Right after that, he stood up in his centaur form, delivering a frontal kick to that monkey. This caused Dongmu to lose his transformation. Tang imagines that the fight is over, and Lin Feng is sure that Mode deserves to be a legend of that shelter. Badly injured, the sadistic one still tries to get up, but he ended up falling defeated to the ground, leaving the entire arena surprised. Mode said that the internal organs of the fool are compromised and that soon he will cease to live if he does not receive treatment. Dongmu managed to get on his knees, promising to exterminate our hero's life at the next opportunity. The battle is then concluded and the audience celebrates Mode's victory. In her office, Commander Kim is reading an article about Mode's victory, which has already been read by millions of people. Miss Yang claims that all that notoriety came because of Dongmu, who was already a famous person. In light of this, Kim is becoming increasingly interested in the true identity of this person. Inside his home, our protagonist continues studying. As he needs to buy something in the sacred hall, he is quite indecisive. At that moment, he noticed that Fang was calling him. Upon answering the call, he learned that Lin Feng and Tang are very satisfied with his performance and training. Therefore, he had another job to do, and our protagonist became interested in how he would be rewarded. To find out, he should go there and discover. After ending the call, Han found a technique for accelerating particle movement, which seems very interesting. Outside the steel shelter, several men are waiting for our protagonist as they learn through Fang that he is good with stealth attacks, but they were surprised to encounter Han, who has a reputation for being a maniac. Our boy knows that those people do not share spoils with the Son of Heaven or with the commander, and a chubby guy approached him angrily, saying that the mission will be very difficult. They will do this work so that Lord Quan can perfect his sacred lineage gene. Looking at Lord Quan, the chubby guy said that our protagonist is not trustworthy, but the man trusts Fang's word. He told our boy to follow his plan, moreover, and the security is on him. If he manages to return alive, he'll receive a mutant beast for riding. This is an opportunity for him to show that he is not a loser. After that, the caravan continued advancing through the forest. Han realized they had traveled 7,000 kilometers in just 3 days. Those riding beasts are truly fast. Finally, they arrived at their destination and Mr. Quan asked everyone to be cautious. Entering the cave, our boy asked if they had left those blood marks the last time. The chubby one said that the beast that resides there has tough scales. Any mistake could be fatal. Quan said they would attract the creature's attention, after which our boy needs to use this opportunity to enter the water and strike it in its belly, where its weak point is located. A little ahead of them, a huge armadillo was drinking water. It was time to put the plan into action. Han noticed that the monster's defense was high. If there were any changes to the plan, it would be very risky, and our protagonist wanted to receive his reward immediately. Mr. Quan's men were very upset to see him demand something like that. But the boy agreed, handing the beast over to our protagonist, for if he fled at that moment, his reputation would be ruined. Finally, the plan began to be executed. 3 groups split up and Han needed to wait to act. The men stood up with stones in their hands, and like primitive hominids, they threw the stones at the creature. Immediately, the armadillo became quite upset. It transformed into a sphere moving around the cave like a billiard ball. Now that the path was clear, Han needed to enter the water, and he did so with the help of an oxygen tank. The creature's strength was incredible, and it seemed like it would bring down the entire cave. The other men tried to get its attention with stones, changing positions as soon as they managed to attract the armadillo's focus. Meanwhile, our boy dove into the lake, waiting for his moment to act. After scaring off the hunters, the armadillo returned to its original form, using the water source to hydrate itself. Hidden by the water, our boy prepared his arrow. He managed to hit the creature's most vulnerable spot, which writhed in pain after being struck. Since that wasn't fatal, it tried to attack the water, a strike that came dangerously close to our protagonist. Then the armadillo turned back into a sphere and fled. Mr. Quan's men began to chase it. That's when our boy emerged from the water to breathe, realizing that the attack had caused a painful wound. All those hunters were surprised by the armadillo's speed, which was doing all this while injured. They even thought that our protagonist must have missed the vital point. Injured, Han assured them that his arrow pierced the creature's belly. If it wasn't immune to poison, it would soon be incapacitated. Pointing to the monster's trail, he said they should follow it immediately. That place seemed like a maze, so they needed to stick together to avoid getting lost. In the middle of the journey, Han was informed that the armadillo had been defeated and he received a beastly soul as a reward. Our boy was immediately surprised by this. Mr. Kwan asked him what happened, and Han informed him of the armadillo's demise. Shortly after that, they heard a very loud noise. Not knowing what it was, they were sure of one thing: whatever made that noise must be enormous. Our protagonist tried to approach the rest of the hunters, but his eyes met something terrifying. A large eagle was feeding on the armadillo's carcass, and it was furious at the presence of the hunters. They all fled in fear, not wanting to encounter something like that. The enormous winged creature flew toward Han. Our protagonist knew this was a beast of sacred lineage, and there was no chance of escaping. Faced with this, he drew his bow, shooting arrows that flew close to the creature's eyes. Since that was ineffective, he had to dodge the bird's charge. Then he needed to run for his life. But the creature's attack was so devastating that it destroyed the stones in the area, throwing Han off balance. As soon as he regained his footing, he continued to run. The chubby one, who had been rude to our boy, realized he was being very brave now, creating an opportunity for the rest of the hunters to escape safely. Mr. Kwan was also pleased with this, now recognizing that he owed our boy. Once at a distance, our protagonist managed to use his armor to flee from the creature, and the more he ran, the more he realized that the bird wanted to devour him. He finally found a water source. Through that, Han could find an underground path. He jumped into the water, hoping the creature wouldn't try to discover if it could swim or not. Even though he dove, he ended up being struck by the bird's beak. That attack pierced his armor. If it hadn't been for that, our protagonist would have died immediately. Once in the water, he used the soul of an aquatic mount, which proved to be very useful. In this way, he will be able to distance himself from danger quickly. At Tang's residence, he continues to train hard. He noticed that Lin Feng laughed a few times while reading, so the young man decided to ask what had caused that reaction. Lin Feng said he is very anxious about something in the future. Tang immediately realized that he was talking about the battle against the coin during the Divine Tournament. Lin Feng revealed that he does not know what the ranking of his opponent will be, as it is based on victories. Certainly, for next year's edition, you will be recorded as someone formidable. At night in the forest, Han's eyes slowly open, and he sees a girl. Shortly after that, he became very frightened. Waking up completely disoriented, Xiaobu said she used her herbs to treat his wounds. She was accompanied by a young man who informed that they found our boy near the river and that he was about to die. After recovering, he learned that the glorious shelter is 4 kilometers from where they are, and they even charge a medical escort fee from our protagonist amounting to 100,000. Han is grateful for the help but revealed that he has no money at the moment. The young man said they could be paid when they reach the Alliance. The girl is against this charge, believing they did it out of virtue, and the young man said that the hunt was not good, which is why they need to earn some money. Our protagonist noticed that their clothes are ordinary, their equipment too, and they are looking for primitive genes. They must not be nobles, a sign that our protagonist's luck is great. Distracted, the girl pointed to the forest. There are several monkeys, and among them, one is of the mutant category. The two decided to flee as those creatures are dangerous for them. Our protagonist asked if the debt would be paid if he helped the two hunt some monsters. The young man was immediately incredulous. Han, on the other hand, was already ready with his bow. All he did was shoot a few times. They realized that those arrows were made of mutant souls, truly powerful. And our protagonist continues shooting. For him, defeating those monsters is too easy. The large monkey positions itself threateningly towards them. The young man said that the creature's skin is too tough and that they are in danger. But our protagonist believes he will win in a single attack. His arrow ended up veering off from the creature, striking him fatally on the side of the head. The monkey's body fell to the ground defeated. In this way, our protagonist can put away his bow. After witnessing that display of strength, his rescuers were truly impressed. The next day, they managed to reach the glorious shelter. It is our protagonist's first time in this place. He knows that Beifeng and Lingyan live there. Due to the help they receive in the forest, the young man said that they do not need to pay anything more. Our boy wished that they could earn many genetic points and money from that. Xiaobu is the one who's very excited, as helping our protagonist was truly important for her journey. The young man, on the other hand, made it clear that the next time they meet, he will be stronger. Now that they are at the transfer station, our protagonist learned that if he goes through this portal, he will return to the same shelter. Realizing that to return to the steel-clad shelter, he will need to do so through the forest. Han immediately realized that he might not make it in time for his next battle in the tournament. Even if that happened, he would still remain in 10th place. Knowing the risks, he said goodbye to those two. Lin Feng ended up being declared the best celestial warrior of that year. As he leaves the audience, he is cheered by the crowd. People are surprised that Coin did not appear in that phase of the combat. They believe he must have fled out of fear, and reporters went to ask Lin Feng's opinion on this. The young man made it clear that he fears no one and believes the feeling is mutual for his opponent. Even so, the reporters want to know who would be the winner between the two. Lin Feng said they can only know the true answer after a duel. Tang came in second place and is wondering why the reporters are not asking him questions. However, Lin Feng hides his hatred for those people. He is eager to duel with Coin next year. Back at the shelter, our protagonist receives a call. Fang said he is lucky not to have been devoured by that giant bird, and our boy informed that he will return the beast's spirit he received from Mr. Quan when he finds him. However, Fang made it clear that this is not necessary, as even if the armadillo had been consumed by the bird, Mr. Quan managed to get the genetic points he needed, and he only managed to do this because of our boy's contribution. Han said that if he had a slightly more powerful bow, he would have been able to defeat that creature. Fang said on the other side that Mr. Quan has a bestial soul bow of sacred lineage stored. It was lent to one of his subordinates, which left our boy quite interested. Now that he helped our protagonist with information, Fang wants to know if he had absorbed the soul of the armadillo, and Han confirmed, receiving a hard shield covered in thorns. It seems that this is exactly what the thumb needs. This is the guy who is in possession of Mr. Quan's bow. With the imminent possibility of a meeting between them, our boy is prepared. His attention was soon captured by the appearance of a peculiar person, Commander Kim. She approaches our protagonist to ask where he has been, as the entrance exam for the Black Eagle Military Academy will take place in 3 days. Extending a card to Han, she told him to take the first ship that goes to the Academy's planet, making it clear that if he runs away, just like Moda did, he will be completely obliterated by her. Now our protagonist discovered why the commander is so upset. After that brief interaction, he returned to his family's home. He said that the commander has high expectations regarding his future, but that academy is on another planet. However, as soon as he becomes a soldier, both will be protected. His sister wants to know how long he will be away, and our protagonist said that probably only during the holidays. In the meantime, his sister needs to continue practicing the sacred angel technique. His mother was moved to hear that good news and said she would support the boy's decision, stating that his father would be very proud of him. Motivated, our protagonist affirmed that he would not disappoint them. Finally, he went to the interstellar port. Many people are preparing to travel, and thanks to that card, he is able to complete his identification. This is the first time our protagonist boards a military ship, which makes him quite anxious. Observing that aircraft, he couldn't help but feel excited. Once inside, he began to look for his seat. He noticed that it is by the window, and there was already a girl sitting there. Our protagonist realized that she is wearing the Academy's uniform, and she seems to be quite engrossed in something. Han noticed that it is the same game, the Hand of God, but that version is made to play with other players. The girl celebrates as she had won her 10th consecutive game. Finally, she noticed that there was someone on the other side, and the girl said that it is rude to stare at strangers like that. Han apologized, revealing that he was intrigued by her game, realizing that it is very popular. The girl, on the other hand, does not believe this version. She is sure that this guy was looking at her attributes. Continuing the conversation, Han asked if she is a student at the academy, saying that he is also going there to take his entrance exam. The girl was surprised to realize that they would be part of the same school. Han made it clear that for that to happen, he needs to be approved, but that he has already done very well in the physical and theoretical tests so far. After hearing a few more words from him, the girl found him overly confident, which made her upset. Our protagonist has no idea why she is so upset. Little does he know that she believes he coldly analyzed her attributes with those depraved eyes. Willing to show him something, she suggested they play that version of the Hand of God. If he wins, she promised she would become his girlfriend. Now with the ship halfway through its journey, our protagonist asks if that proposal is really serious. And the girl named Yanren assured him that she was telling the truth, and our protagonist said he had never tried to play that game in that version. In response, the girl said she would help him in the first 5 rounds, stating that only the best get into the Black Eagle Academy. This wouldn't be difficult for him. Han immediately realized that the girl is aggressive and wants to teach him a lesson. He dismissed the practice with her, as he knows the rules of the game, and as a future student of the academy, he does not want to be a loser. All he asked for was some time to get used to the interface. Worried, Yanren hopes that he is sure about this, so she won't have to say later that she was unfair to him. Finally, our boy says he is ready, and his identification name is I Got a Girlfriend. Yanren felt provoked, but our protagonist just reminded her of the promise she had made. At that moment, she revealed that she is the leader of the club for that game at the academy, and it is time for them to start their match. Yanren believes she will destroy our boy. On the other hand, Han is just excited to compete with someone else. Their match finally begins. Han makes precise movements with his fingers, which leaves Yanren quite hesitant. She noticed that the score opened in favor of her opponent. Other buttons appeared on the screen, and our protagonist continues to score. Yanren believes that everything happening now is beginner's luck, but our protagonist keeps scoring. Gradually, she becomes incredulous, as this should be impossible. Finally, she saw an opportunity to score points, but our protagonist is even faster than she is. Yanren couldn't understand that strategy, as the boy took the points on her screen, not those closest to her hand. She immediately thought it was some kind of provocation. Revealing that he was very focused, Han told her not to lose her concentration. Yanren knows that few members of her club can steal points from her at this difficulty. The only possibility is that he is cheating, and once again our protagonist proves to be far superior. His hand speed is so great that she can't keep up with him. Finally, the match ends and our protagonist won by a small margin of 100 points to 0. Han realized that this is a much simpler version of the original game, and having been defeated, Yanren is completely consumed by her anger. Our boy even found that reaction strange. Standing up, Yanran tried to intimidate him by saying that Han used some kind of cheating. However, our protagonist claims that this was his first experience with that game, but she has never been defeated in that way, which is why it's hard for her to accept the result. Once again, Han assures her that he did not take advantage of her. Determined to prove her point, she stated that they would play again on the professional machine when they arrived at the academy. A proposal that was well received by Han, who was only depending on her approval to be accepted there. Leaving the table, Yanran said that the academy is not a place for liars. Taking a deep breath, our protagonist realized he should have been a bit friendlier with her, but the game was so fun that he completely ignored that. Finally, after a long journey, our boy arrived at the academy. In the main hall, several people are present. Han did not expect that number of candidates for the exam. An official asked if he is the person recommended by Commander Kim. He is the chief examiner. Since she assured that the boy would be approved, the examiner informed him that they would not demand much from him. He just needs to take the written test to get approved, but he will still need to demonstrate his skills with the bow. Our boy already said he is prepared to take the test at any moment, but he is grateful to have someone important to recommend him. Seeing all those uniformed officials, he felt a bit nervous as everyone was very serious. He went to the waiting room for the archery exam, noticing that it was a holographic shooting range, which is impressive. Not to mention that he had never used equipment like that from the mechanical armor series, he decided to make the most of the experience. Finally, the test began. The targets moved randomly and Han was eager to test his skills. After a short time, his test was over. The official assured him that Han would be approved in 3 months. Until then, he has plenty of time left. Now Han would return to his shelter, but he saw a small commotion ahead of him. Beautiful girls were running late for class, and our protagonist realized that the days in that place could be as sweet as honey. Inside that building, the chief examiner was impressed. Our protagonist's performance was truly exceptional. Commander Kim even received a call from the official who thanked her for that recommendation. Yang learned of this and informed that she would send soldiers to protect the boy's family. With this approval, Miss Yang asked if he is qualified to join the special team, and the commander affirmed that when the time comes, he will receive a task. Days later, something happens in the suburbs of the glorious shelter. Our protagonist continues to progress more and more, and it is time to return to his original shelter. The fastest route is through the Black Swamp, but he is already familiar with the dangers of that region, and the mount he received is very fast. A few more days pass, and he is back. He is completely exhausted from his nighttime hunts. His eyes open wide due to the excessive noise at his door. Finally, our boy got up. The first impression he had upon returning to himself was that it could be an earthquake, and he ran towards the exit. But what he realized was something else. The creature he had imprisoned had transformed into a beast of sacred lineage. It took him 2 days to return from the glorious shelter, and he had no time to rest in the past few weeks. Han realized he was lucky that the creature hadn't escaped from that cage. Now that it was hungry, he thought about making a very nutritious meal, immediately taking down the wild boar. It didn't take long for a wonderful stew to be made, and our protagonist fed like an Amazonian anaconda, receiving 34 points of ice from a sacred lineage. He had already obtained other points by consuming the black-tailed monkeys. As time passed, he grew closer to his goal, and looking at the small crystal, he began to think about which beast he would cultivate next. Only then did he remember that he had not yet collected the reward from the divine battle. Our boy went to the Martial Court building. It was already quite late, and the place was definitely closed. No one would show up there. Even though he had come in last in his phase, he still received a bestial soul of sacred lineage. After obtaining this item, he would not be able to enter the divine battlefield until the following year. He finally placed his hands on the jewel and was waiting to see what his reward would be. Receiving the divine soul asterisk, it was something humanoid and of sacred lineage. Our boy managed to obtain the demon queen, and upon absorbing that energy, he realized he was merging with it. Now possessing an extremely cool armor and bleached hair, our Super Saiyan from AliExpress noticed that his power had increased significantly. Moreover, his sense of balance was very refined. Still, it wasn't as good as the Black Beetle armor in terms of strength and defense, but now he could see things that were very far away. With a great amount of detail, it was as if the movements were in slow motion. Our protagonist could even perceive the flapping of a bee's wings. Indeed, the power of the Demon Queen is impressive. And the best part is that he could use this power as the true Han, as the coin would not reveal his identity to anyone. Several days later, some people were gathered in the mail office of the academy, and the students seemed to be deliberating about something. Our boy entered that place saying that from that day on, he would also live there. Immediately, his new colleagues observed him with great coldness, leaving Han worried. One of them took him by the arm, being grateful for his arrival, sharing that our boy is very slow. Shortly after that, the door was closed. Han discovered that they were fighting over that small object, a brooch. The bald guy said they needed to choose the representative of the dormitory. Since he is the oldest, he believes he will be a great leader. The scientist, I will call him the scientist because he wears glasses, formal clothing, and struck that pose of putting his finger in his eye, which is very typical of intelligent people, believes that the intelligent ones are the best qualified, which is why he ran for the position. Meanwhile, the hot-headed guy, curiously with red hair, believes that leadership should be resolved through violence. Our boy said that anyone could be a leader, He didn't care and would hate to get into conflicts with his new colleagues. The hot-headed guy suggested they decide through target shooting. Since they are all from the archery department, whoever hits the most times with 100 arrows would be the leader. The bald guy and the scientist looked at each other, agreeing with this proposal. Our protagonist also found that very fair. Now that there was consensus, the hot-headed guy was leading everyone to the training room. But his posture was rejected by the bald guy, who did not want to take orders from him. Our protagonist realized that in the company of those crazies, his life would not be easy. As soon as they arrived at the training range, they quickly reached a decision. The bald guy cried desolately, as he had come in last place. The hot-headed guy said he should keep training because he has potential. In fact, he was promoted to leader of that dormitory. The scientist also did not believe in his defeat, as he knew he was very precise. Unfortunately, he came in second place. Our protagonist tried to tell them that it was just a game, and they would continue to listen to the bald guy for being the oldest. That left the guy very motivated, willing to help our protagonist if he needed assistance. For our protagonist, the hot-headed guy could be a good leader since he is lively and extroverted. As they walked, they noticed something happening nearby. Several people were being recruited for the God's Hand Club, and Yanren's photo was right at the entrance. Surprisingly, our protagonist did not recognize her at first. The bald guy, on the other hand, identified the girl immediately. Only after hearing her name did our protagonist remember the girl, and he asked if she was really famous. The bald guy was surprised that our boy did not know who she was. Revealing himself to be a big fan, he said she is the leader of the God's Hand Club and the greatest beauty in the entire academy. The scientist made it clear that she was out of the bald guy's league, strongly recommending that he train his archery skills asterisk. Excited, the hot-headed guy suggested they sign up for that club as he wanted to defeat Yanren. The bald man found that ridiculous, as she is definitely out of his skill range. The one who prevented that from happening was the scientist, who seems to be the only sane person in that small group. Our protagonist is impressed with her skill and decided to keep secret what happened between them. Several days went by. In one class, the students are learning about the genetic advancements humanity has undergone. Our protagonist learned all of that in public school, even so, he needs to repeat that knowledge. In the practical classes, he noticed that the teacher's guidance is truly exceptional. Soon, he would experience how a combat operational robot works. For that, he needs to familiarize himself with the simulator, which for him is the realization of a dream. After that exhausting day, his companions are sleeping. But our boy continues studying. He realized that if he doesn't complete all the tasks, he will fall behind in the content. Only then did he see that there were several missed calls from his friend Fang. Outside the forest, someone is already waiting for him. It was that chubby guy who told our boy that Fang is trying to get in touch with him. His name is Thumb, and he is in possession of Mr. Kwan's bow. In fact, he praised our boy for being accepted into the Black Eagle Military Academy, showing him the bow, saying that he is very grateful for what our protagonist did for all of them last time. Since this is a trade, our boy showed him the armadillo shield. Now that he possesses a beastly soul bow of sacred lineage, our boy is getting closer to becoming even stronger. The next day, our protagonist returned to the dormitory and overheard the conversation inside. They were talking about sponsorship and revenge, and worse than the topic, what left Han curious, was the female voice from inside. As soon as he entered, he realized it was the bald man talking on the phone. He was playing a game called God's Hand and wanted to teach a lesson to his competitors. Our boy is already familiar with the game, and on the other side of the screen, they were bothering the bald man, saying he is a girl repellent. Our protagonist said they should take it easy on the insults, as it is just a game. In the company of our protagonist, the bald man asked to be added so they could play together. In light of that support, he realized that Han is a very good person, but our protagonist needs to change his username, as the previous one is a bit embarrassing. Unfortunately, the bald man saw that username, not just him, but all the other players in that room. The bald man became worried for his new friend, as this could lead to harassment at the academy. Ignoring that fact, Hank announced that he would change his name later. He would take a few minutes to play. On the other side, the players are claiming that he will be defeated. The match finally begins. Han has his hands ready. He manages to advance on the scoreboard quickly. It was so fast that the bald man couldn't even notice. And in a few seconds, he is already soaring on the scoreboard, leaving his competitors completely stagnant. It didn't take long for the news to spread within the academy. A guy is saying that the newcomer is very arrogant as he took on the nickname Yanren's boyfriend. No one can understand how the freshman managed to defeat experienced players. Outside, a girl hurriedly approaches Yanren, and quite curious, she asks for an honest answer, wanting to know if she has a boyfriend. Yanhan denies that question, finding the inquiry unusual. It was then that her classmates showed that this is the most talked about topic on the Academy forum. Very upset, Yanhan said she doesn't know that player. But her classmate disagrees as he defeated experienced players. Turning her back, she advised her classmate not to believe any rumors that arise in that place. As for our protagonist, he is being cheered on by his new classmates. The bald man said that if he didn't want to keep his identity secret, he would spread to everyone who he really is, which is reprimanded by the scientist. And walking down that street, they encountered Yanren. Our protagonist heard her say that she would teach a lesson to that person. A few days later, he returned to his shelter. Going to speak directly with the commander, he received his first special mission, getting a break from the academy. Our boy still doesn't know what his duties are in this special team, and the commander informed him that he will be a babysitter. This information left Han quite confused, and she assured him that they are responsible for protecting children with special backgrounds, and some of them are under their protection. A bit more interested, Han asked where they are going, and the commander informed him that it is to the White Demon Desert. Our protagonist thinks it's absurd to take a little girl to such a dangerous place, but the commander made it clear that if he fails, he will be expelled and punished. Once in the White Demon Desert, the girl asked if Han is really strong, as he was recommended by the commander herself. He said he belongs to the archery department, and very excited, the girl keeps hugging him. Along with him, the mustached alcoholic and the boy with glasses were also sent. Han is hoping that no unforeseen events occur. Faced with the privilege that nobles possess, he is increasingly determined to give his family a better future. Before long, the chubby mustached man spotted a mutant beast, a dangerous unicorn fox, but they will be able to defeat it. The girl charges into battle, as she wants to defeat it alone. Our protagonist goes to protect her and asks the mustached man and the boy with glasses to pay attention. The girl throws her daggers, but nothing happens as she missed. It was then that she realized the fox's agility is very high, and decided to use the soul of a beast to fight. The girl is determined not to let the monster escape. The mustached man and the boy with glasses are impressed, as that beastly soul is of sacred lineage. Riding on the bear, the girl advances. Our protagonist told everyone to summon their mounts as she cannot stray too far. Han immediately climbed onto his fortified bull, while being followed by his other companions. The fox seems to be frightened now, which makes it even more dangerous. Using her influence, she managed to call other foxes to fight, and at that moment, the girl realized they had fallen into a trap. No longer having the numerical advantage, she decided it would be better to flee. But all those little foxes are chasing after her, until the first one managed to bite the bear's paw, which screamed desperately in pain. Fleeing was no longer an option. They needed to fight, and little by little, the girl is running a great risk to her life. But precise arrows whistle through the air, hitting all those foxes that got too close. Our protagonist will contain those creatures, and upon being saved, that girl felt quite relieved. The boy with glasses and the mustached man are also there to help. Before long, the foxes were completely annihilated, and now the girl apologized for acting recklessly. However, the battle was not over yet, and a loud noise arose from the ground. A large sandworm appeared in that place. At that moment, our protagonist realized that things had just gotten extremely complicated. Fighting against that is very dangerous. They try to flee, but the sandworm is very fast, as it is favored by the terrain. Our protagonist warned that the worst part of it is that this type of beast lives in groups. And to their surprise, it seems something happened in their escape path. The boy with glasses noticed they were being surrounded by all these monsters. Our protagonist asked the girl to come to his mount, as it would be safer. That would reduce the number of targets, so she needs to obey. Looking at the drunkard, our protagonist wants to know if he can handle it, and the mustached man felt happy to be useful to that team. Using his secret technique of the habitual drunken wanderer, he began to annihilate foxes as if they were fentanyl vials, clearing a path for all of them, who advanced firmly. Feeling quite regretful, the girl cried, saying that all of this is her fault. Han warned that their mission is to protect her life, and the only blame for the failure will be theirs and no one else's. Being constantly calm, she considered our boy quite kind. As the foxes are quite numerous, soon the drunkard will find it difficult to fight, and the mutant fox began to call more creatures. Shortly after that, she increased her power, reaching the sacred lineage. The mustached man realized that if he doesn't have a pack of cigarettes to relieve his stress, or a pipe with suspicious content, he won't last long. Disappointed, the girl cried, asking to be left behind, as she doesn't want those people to risk themselves for her life. Our protagonist warned that it is too early to give up, and now it is time to do what is necessary. Han immediately tightened the belt he was wearing, and completely transformed, he began to use the power of the Demon Queen, asking the beggar to provide his protection, as he would take everyone out of there. As he advances into the creatures, his friends are covering him. Our protagonist's power in the form of an AliExpress Super Saiyan is truly impressive. Thanks to the power of the Demon Queen, those foxes pose no danger at all. However, he can only maintain this transformation for 10 minutes. Clinging to his back like a backpack, the girl is becoming more and more captivated. The fox seems to be giving orders to her subjects to continue fighting. The beggar noticed movement on the battlefield. The monster's forces are retreating. Meanwhile, the boy with glasses is being chased by the sandworms. Our protagonist knows that the fox is clever. If they continue acting this way, they will be defeated. He needs to do something, and the girl doesn't believe he will try to hit the monster. Han decided he would take the risk because if he defeats the fox, success is guaranteed. Even with several casualties, the fox remains very confident. The boy with glasses noted that the creature leading the attack is still alive. Even the mustached one felt a sense of mockery. As the creature watches them all, our protagonist's arrow slices through the air, and the girl on his back watches intently. The projectile seems to have truly struck the fox fatally. Everyone who witnessed that was surprised by Han's skills. With the supposed defeat of the evil fox, the other creatures became disoriented on the battlefield. Not just the foxes, but even the sandworms lost focus. This created a great opportunity for our protagonist and his friends. He told the girl to call for her mount once again. He dispelled the Demon Queen's ability, and now they are fleeing, mounted on the bear. But as the joy of the poor lasts little, a large golden sandworm appeared in their path. On it is the evil fox. The boy with glasses doesn't know how this fox manages to control the sandworms, and the beggar, drinking a liquid of quite questionable origin, realized that this worm is also of sacred lineage. The solution for them is to change course and flee in another direction, but this time it will split into two teams. To our protagonist's misfortune, the fox is coming after him as if seeking revenge. Telling the girl to duck, our protagonist aimed his bow at the creature. He managed to defeat a fox that was approaching, and for doing that, he received primitive genetics points. He wasn't expecting to receive a mutant beast soul on this occasion, which is very satisfying. Continuing the escape, the very furious fox is behind them. The girl said that her mount is getting tired and need to change strategy. Then Ham pointed in another direction. For in that place there is a great cliff they need to try to jump. The girl doesn't know if the bear can make it, but our protagonist said they need to do this. Following only our protagonist's guidance, the creature jumped. Still in the air, Han ordered the girl to retrieve her mount, and then he shot another arrow at the fox. But this time, he failed to hit the creature. On the other hand, the sandworm continues advancing toward them, quite confused. A great flash filled the skies, and the girl was sure she was heading to the nearest Isekai. To her surprise, her fall was interrupted, and looking down, she saw the shadow of a pair of wings. Not believing it, she found herself embraced by the famous Golden Man. As soon as they touched the ground, the girl was quite confused. Looking at our protagonist, she asked where his wings were. And showing he mastered the art of acting, Ham pretended not to understand. He swore he also saw a pair of wings, but apparently, it was just the shadow of the clouds. After being a victim of that gaslighting, the girl ended up really confused as she was sure she saw something else. While they were discussing this, she saw the sandworm descend the cliff. Our protagonist said that this creature became disoriented, which is why it fell from that height. Now the issue is safety. They need to join the others because this place is too dangerous to stay alone. And for having defeated the golden worm, our boy received another beast soul of sacred lineage. Back at the academy, a boy practices the most primitive demonstration of power, breaking objects with the strength of his hands. And it seems to be working, as several female students would very much like him to analyze their twins in detail. They were soon interrupted by a boy who had just arrived. One of them was going to insult him but was stopped by her friend. This boy is Lei Yufeng, the first of the gods hand-ranking. Rumors say he is not stronger than that muscular, long-haired guy who likes to break things with his hands, so he might have come there to compete. The girls even consider him handsome. They just don't like his arrogant behavior of thinking he is the best. Quite upset, he went to ask the muscular boy if the identification in Yanren's boyfriend game belongs to him, and revealing himself to be a true Chad, the muscular guy said he is not incompetent enough to compete for a woman like that boy. Not satisfied with this answer, our dear Boving friend said he would find that person and put them in their place. In the dormitory, our protagonist learned that he is being challenged by Yu Feng, which surprises him. The scientist made it clear that he is actually after the person who had the identification of Yanren's boyfriend, and everyone knows he is her Boving. The Hoth-Ed showed a discussion happening in the Academy forum regarding this subject. Our protagonist realized that thanks to his pseudonym, he is being insulted by everyone. Now he needs to resolve this situation. While taking a shower, he thinks about the task in the desert. Unfortunately, he did not obtain the S-rank letter from the Sacred Hall. The commander said that he will be responsible for protecting that girl from now on, and until she obtains all the necessary genes, he will not receive the reward for the task. On the other hand, thanks to those creatures, he managed to receive 2 beast souls, a completely unexpected result. One of them is a mount type, but since there are many, he thought about selling one. The other he received is a pet type, which surprises him asterisk. To him, that is completely useless as Mr. Meow asterisk. As soon as he learned this, he was quite disappointed. And now he will take out all his anger on poor Yu Feng, who decided to challenge him. At night on that same day, the students are anxious for this battle. Even Yanren herself decided to pay attention to it. Her friend, who seems quite experienced, asked whom she wishes to date. Yanren, besides ignoring the answer, said she doesn't care about the winner, but would like to know who is the person behind that identification. Yu Feng, in the company of his lackeys, waiting for our protagonist to show up. He accepted the withdrawal as a demonstration of apology and is waiting for that to happen. But he was surprised by the appearance of our protagonist in the virtual room. That match took on great proportions within the academy. Even the person responsible for reporting on campus is broadcasting what will happen. On one side is Yu Feng, and on the other, a completely anonymous person. He, who is known by everyone, currently leads the ranking, while Yanren's supposed boyfriend has not revealed his identity. His strength is unknown, which makes the match even more interesting. Yu Feng shows that he is quite fast with his fingers, a formidable opponent. Our protagonist observes that completely calm. He doesn't even feel challenged. Then the jerk thinks he will have an easy victory. Yu Feng managed to open a lead of 40 points while our protagonist did nothing. Everyone already imagined that something like this would happen. It seems this match will be a complete humiliation. Very disappointed, Yanran's friend said that her boyfriend must have gotten shy, which is quite frustrating. In the room where our protagonist is, his friends asked why he was letting this happen. And now that he is at a clear disadvantage, he decided he would show all his potential. The difference now is overwhelming, and Feng opened a 74-point lead. And before our protagonist could react, he managed to score another 6 points. Then Han sent a message in the chat saying he had gone to the bathroom and finally returned. For the other students, that would become a reason for mockery, as this must be a lame excuse to justify the defeat. In the next second, our boy started scoring several points. In a short time, he scored 9 points, leaving the presenter surprised. Yufeng is also impressed with that speed of reaction. It was so fast that it prevented our protagonist's opponent from attempting to score any points. And no matter how much they try to think it could be cheating, that was completely fair. And once again, Yufeng fails to score because our protagonist is faster than him. In light of that reaction, Yanran and her friend were left speechless. And our protagonist's friends began to cheer for him, amazed by his skill. Thanks to the sacred gene, our protagonist's physique is enhanced. It seems to be in slow motion. In no time, the match was over. Our protagonist achieved victory. A deep and deadly silence took over the hall where the students were gathered to watch this. Even Yanran herself was surprised. And completely outraged, Yufeng does not accept his defeat. Inside the dormitory, our protagonist celebrates with his friends. The bald guy is quite enthusiastic about that beautiful match, as it was something very interesting to watch. Now they are all celebrating in a restaurant, impressed with our protagonist's feats. He realized that this was just a pretext for them to take advantage of his achievement. Sitting at the table, our protagonist noticed a girl approaching. She said she didn't expect to find him there, and this is the one he took to the desert to collect genes. Our boy was surprised to find her at the academy. The bald guy immediately approached our protagonist, asking how he met those beauties in such a short time. For the scientist, it must be easy for Han to get close to so many girls, while the HUNTED saw great virility in him. But our protagonist tries to explain the situation as it is not what they are thinking. Now that she had found him, the blue-haired girl has a favor to ask. The bald man immediately offers to help her, as they would do their best to accomplish any task. She said that her club is completely empty and it is the Armored Robots Club. As soon as they heard this, the protagonist's friends were completely impressed, because those fragile girls are part of a quite aggressive group. In response to her favor, they went to sign up for this new club as a demonstration of kindness. The club president and his assistant said that the physical standards for acceptance are very demanding, and the blue-haired girl told them not to worry, as her friend is very powerful. Entering the warehouse, the boys were impressed with everything. That equipment is definitely very expensive. The blue robot is multifunctional and very difficult to operate. This is the bald man's first time seeing giant robots, and the HUNTED is impressed with all that technology. The blue-haired girl said they could come here every day, as there will soon be a competition. Han realized that at the training academy he had to wait in line to train with the robots, and now he would have a great privilege. A supervisor appeared at that moment to speak with the director, asking why there were so many children in warehouse number 7. In response, the director said he likes the attention that young people give to that equipment. The supervisor imagines that they are just privileged rich kids and does not like what is happening. Going directly to the warehouse, the supervisor said he needs to take those robots because he will not allow the children of those wealthy families to ruin the material. But he noticed that someone was operating the blue robot, which is very difficult to master. He immediately realized that the pilot has potential. It is possible that he's a new trainer. To analyze his skills even better, he decided to duel with him by entering the red robot. Our protagonist is the one piloting the builder and is impressed with his skills. To his surprise, the system alerted him to something. It was a surprise attack that was approaching. The supervisor decided to start the violence. As his strike was blocked, he became quite excited. Our protagonist knows that the red robot is not made for combat, but is being very skillful. And upon seeing a chainsaw on the arm of the robot, he started to get quite scared. This time, he really could not afford to miss the block. The strength of that other robot is quite intense. Our protagonist began to feel pressured in the battle. The instructor is excited about this because it has been a long time since he last had fun. With weapons in both hands, he is ready to continue fighting. Our protagonist tried to talk to the pilot on the other side, saying that he has nothing against him, and now had pressed several buttons on the panel because he needs to react quickly. Since there is no other option, he needs to use his metal sticks. The two robots begin to exchange blows. The instructor realized that this new trainer is quite resilient. His intention is definitely to take this genius out of the Armored Mecha Club and bring him to his own department. While thinking about this, our protagonist managed to hit his opponent, and the boy understood that he could not get distracted in that fight. Tired of having to battle, our protagonist decided to abandon the giant robot. The instructor, on the other hand, realized that the boy is very strong and was only getting better. He needs to convince him to join his department. However, upon seeing that he was not a trainer, he was surprised. Going up to our protagonist, he asked if he is really a student, and our boy realized that none of his friends were on the other side, which only confirms his suspicion that they are not that talented. In response to the question, he said he is a new student and wanted to know if that man is a veteran of that club. Quite suspicious. The instructor wants to know if our protagonist could be some kind of spy, as he appears to have received professional training. Our boy stated that he has only had experience with training robots. and things became even more surprising when he said he is from the archery department. The instructor realized he was in the presence of a prodigy, and now, as he had an appointment, our protagonist said goodbye to him, hoping they could duel soon. Observing that boy, the instructor was impressed with such skill and wished he would join the Combat Mecha Club. The next day, the classes went on as usual, and the students were informed about the cup that would take place among the robots. The girls do not have an advantage in combat tests, so they would like to choose something a little more accessible. Our protagonist asked what the prizes are, and the girl with blue hair said that the top 3 winners can get the latest mech models on the market, which are worth millions. As soon as he heard about the money, our protagonist's enthusiasm skyrocketed. The scientist said that our boy has potential. The problem is that this is a team competition. On the other hand, the HUNTED became quite motivated, being willing to contribute. The girl with blue hair also got excited, believing it would be fun. The other boys in the club advised Han not to be impulsive, as they do not want to tarnish the club's reputation. But our protagonist wants to increase the chances of victory, risking a positive impact on the academy. The chubby one said they have many events and might not be able to participate in all of them. While they were talking, a man opened the club door to speak with our boy. Some girls recognized the coach from the Combat Robot Club, and our protagonist realized he had dueled with this coach. He introduced himself formally and politely, praising our protagonist's skills, which is why he invited him to join his club. Our protagonist's friends noticed they were trying to poach him. The girl with blue hair immediately went to confront that. The coach acknowledged that he's a prodigy with great potential, too good to stay in that club. The other 2 boys who already belonged to that place felt envious, as that coach does not invite just anyone. Despite being flattered by the invitation, Han assured that he would stay in the Armored Robot Club, leaving all his friends quite surprised. The coach was confused and insisted that with his talent, he could be first in the league in no time. But our protagonist is happy where he is now, and the coach said that winning the championship would contribute to his graduation, achieving an even higher military ranking. Seeing that he is unwavering, the coach warned that Han might regret this in the future. However, he could join him if he changed his mind. His friends are surprised that he is coveted in this way, and our boy assured that he would stay in this club, and that everyone should strive, but his true goal is to evolve the sacred gene and become a noble. Days later, they were all in the cafeteria. Our protagonist tries to reach the last bottle of soda, but Yangren wants to do the same. She doesn't like our boy and asks what a cheater like him is doing in this place. Immediately, her beefy friend heard her call and asked her who was bothering her. To his surprise, Yangren said it was a classmate, and that this was not Yufeng's business, and our protagonist made it clear that he had defeated her. The beefy one, very proud, believes this is a lie. Our protagonist defeated him too, but he is not there to reveal the truth. Instead, he challenged Yufeng to a game. Immediately, the attention of the students turned to that occasion. Making a simple game, he would hide that paper ball under a cup. The movement of his hands is truly impressive. However, Yufeng was not impressed by that. Yanren is upset because she didn't want her beefy friend interfering in matters concerning her. Also saying that our protagonist is equally childish, Han then asked if she would go out with him if he won that challenge. The girl was embarrassed by the request, while Yufeng looked visibly disturbed. All he needs to do now is guess where our protagonist placed the ball. The boy is confident that he knows the answer, placing his hand over the cup where the ball should be. But when he lifted it, he realized it was empty. The students who witnessed that were also shocked, as the ball was nowhere to be found. Our protagonist showed that it never left his hands, and it seems Yanren will have to go out with him. Our protagonist is outside the shelter where he used to live. One of his friends is taking him to a nest of mutant creatures he found, hoping to gather many genes. He needs this free time because after the invitation he made to Yanren, he could be beaten up by her. Now they are admiring that rocky landscape. Inside, there are many ghostly ants made of crystal. Our protagonist is eager to approach that place, knowing he will need to use his arrows to defeat them. Since the creatures are very numerous, they need to be cautious and not to be seen. He shot the first arrow in the direction of one of them, immediately realizing they are not alone in that place. Other arrows are also heading towards the ants. A small group of hunters wants to take advantage of that situation and started the attack. They believe they won't be reached by the ants because they are protected by a barrier of water, a natural lake. Our protagonist's friend imagined they wouldn't succeed in collecting those creatures due to the competition with these other hunters. In the meantime, our protagonist is prepared for all kinds of situations. He shot one of his arrows, and it ended up hitting the ground near those other hunters. This caused the boulder they were leaning on to break, making them fall into the water very close to the ant, which left them quite worried. Now that they were being attacked by these insects, they decided to flee, or it could be fatal. And observing everything from afar, Han noticed that the ants stopped chasing their aggressors. Not knowing what caused that, he went back to handling his bow. Hitting the first of the ants, tying a thread to the tip of the arrow, it began to do a sort of fishing. In no time, our protagonist managed to capture the soul of this beast, which left him quite excited. Now they continued hunting. It wasn't long before he and his friend had a nice meal with the meat of those insects, earning genetic points for it. Thanks to that hunt, he now has 64 points of mutant genes. and hearing an even louder noise, his friends asked what it could be. And they saw that among the rocks there was a ghostly ant of sacred lineage much larger than those they had hunted. For our protagonist, this is a golden opportunity. He hit the creature with his arrow, hoping to finish it off. But the creature proved to be aggressive and fierce. The boy with him was quite scared as he didn't know what to do now. Our protagonist, however, decided to go on the attack. While his friend looked for a safe place, he wished our protagonist good luck. Hu Mao, using the power of the Demon Queen, is quite agile. He manages to dodge while attacking the large ant. The creature's speed is not enough to avoid his strikes, and our protagonist successfully ends its life. Who is impressed by this is our protagonist's friend, who asked him to sell the soul of that sacred lineage beast. The problem is that our protagonist really needs that item. Faced with his resistance, the boy offered a giant state-of-the-art robot. That proposal sparked a bit of interest in our boy, and the young man said that the robot being offered was produced in a military laboratory and his family's company supplies the necessary metals for its construction. Moreover, what is being offered is a test robot, which for our protagonist should be incomplete. However, his friend assured him that it comes equipped with an efficient weapon system. The only disadvantage is that it cannot be used in shelters as it is made with recombined biological technology and it can be carried in a briefcase. That seems so surprising that our protagonist is completely incredulous. Even though he was interested, he said he couldn't trade the soul of the creature with him. What he has to offer now are 2 souls of mutant beasts. For the boy, that is also an excellent deal, and he is grateful for our protagonist's generosity. They had eaten a lot of meat that day, yet there was still plenty left to be consumed. Han decided to give the rest to his new pet, that little sandworm. His friend watching that was quite curious. But since it is a soul of a sacred lineage beast, Han knows there isn't much to be done. He is just waiting for the creature to evolve in some way. Unfortunately, he cannot summon the Maoing Lord to eat as well, as he was a gift from the commander to the coin and that could reveal his identity. Disappointed, our boy's friend realized that even his pet feeds on mutant meat besides being at the sacred level. Despite this big difference, they continue to help each other, and days later our protagonist received the briefcase. Isn't it that the robot made with biological recombination is stored? Han observes those particles approaching his body and feels a bit scared. Then he felt that he was being completely covered. In a few seconds, he had transformed into the Silver Wild Warrior with a truly impressive armor. And now that he was wearing that, he decided to test the limits of his power. The speed is so great that it seems like he is being teleported. This is 10 times better than the blue robot he tried at the academy, and now he can put his combat skills into practice with much more refinement. Back at the academy, the students from the reporting department want to know how the competition is going. The cameraman said that the Weapons Club duel will be updated and they won 3rd place in the last competition. The reporter wants more news, but the cameraman can't think of anything. At the academy, the topic of the moment is that Yu Feng was defeated by Yanren's boyfriend. The problem is that no one knows who this person really is. In light of this, the cameraman said that there is an archery club, but hardly anyone watches it these days. The most interesting events are the giant robot competitions and martial arts. Since he is interested in finding out who Yanren's boyfriend is, the reporter said that after the snack they would research some profiles. That night, they went straight to the cafeteria. They ended up finding our protagonist having a meal. Our boy reacted so casually to him that the reporter's pride was hurt, as he had already written several articles about Moda that reached millions of views, yet he was still not recognized. Sitting at the table next to Han, he asked what he was dedicating himself to, and our boy said he was only doing basic training, but he would never reveal that he has been practicing with the Wild Silver. The reporter thought it was an inappropriate time to do physical training, so he asked what the boy's name was and what course he was taking. Our protagonist said he is from the archery department and is also part of the Armored Robot Club, and that he would compete in all the matches of his club. Hearing this, the reporter and the cameraman were impressed, as they know it is quite exhausting. However, our boy is confident that if he can put in the effort, everything will work out. The cameraman thinks that if he were in the combat club, he could have hope. But since he is in the Armored Robot Club, it will be a very tough task. It's better for him to focus on the archery competition or the Hand of God. Our protagonist stood up, saying that it wouldn't be difficult, and if he were in another competition, he could defeat his rivals by a 20-point lead. The cameraman didn't understand what that meant, but the reporter was quite thoughtful. He observed closely as our boy walked away. It seems he has noticed something about Yanren's boyfriend. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.